Let us know when we're starting.
Shut up, Matt! We're trying to record the intro. Welcome to Plat Chat episode 46. You plebeians. You've come from the masses far and wide to witness me deliver unto you the speech and the news of the week. Well, I tell you, I have returned from my pilgrimage into the depths of reading in the sun.
How did you spend Mental Health Week? Did you just read the Bible?
No, actually, I read a lot more fantasy. I watched a lot of stuff, and
you didn't
I
fix
actually
your head.
spent I gave myself a haircut, and I spent about $500.
Did you actually give yourself a haircut? Because I can't tell.
It was
you've
so
had a
much
haircut.
worse than this. It was like
Was it?
unbelievably worse. Yeah, it was like this bit over here. Wait, no, this bit was like hanging all the way down here.
No,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, it was. Anyway,
Wow. Okay.
that's besides the point. I actually got a lovely email from somebody, and whoops, I've cocked something up.
Who did you get an email from?
Anyway, you guys talk while I find this email.
What is the
This
email
must be a pretty
about?
important email if he's making us wait while he finds it.
Yeah, it is pretty important.
Who had emailed Bren?
Well, it was actually somebody
I didn't know
who
Bren
was.
had an email. He never responds to work emails.
I know. It was somebody who was very,
that's true.
very, very happy.
It's not from Jansen.
Yeah, I only respond to Jansen's emails, actually. That's just facts.
No one knows who Jansen is, but here we are.
Yeah, he's a very important individual in the Overwatch League. If without him, it would fall to pieces. It's actually not even a joke. Okay, so the email was... It was from, I lied, it wasn't an email, it was a Discord DM that Josh sent to me. It was Lib321 who said that he was big storm outside. I don't know if there was currently a big storm happening and he was in the middle of a big storm, but said, he said, just had big storm, tornado capable in brackets, pass over me. I went to the basement and I thought, well, if my Wi-Fi shuts down, I will still be able to do stuff because I am covered by T-Mobile. Thank God. So, you know what? Why not just jump straight into it? You know, they've got America's largest 5G network covering 215 million people nationwide in nearly 6,000 cities and towns. And even better, the nationwide 5G network works indoors and outdoors, covering thousands of miles, whilst the competition only covers city blocks. So rank up and take your wireless game to the next level with T-Mobile. Visit T-Mobile.com today. So thank you very much, Lib321, that was his name, his or hers name. Yeah. You know, why not? They were worried, you know, the electricity might be out, the house might be flooded, but at the end of the day, what's important? Cell phone coverage. T-Mobile, exactly.
I mean, I'll say this. We moved to the States 2.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's been that
And immediately
long?
when we got here, and immediately when me, Josh, and Brennon got here, we signed up for
know you
T-Mobile.
guys that long?
2.5 years, never had any issues with T-Mobile. So, you know,
It's true.
Wow, I remember
Bren just said like a very nice story and all. I'll just say it from my heart. 2.5 years here in the States with T-Mobile, never any issues.
Wow,
I've
that's
never had an
crazy.
issue.
I remember one of the first podcasts I did was in Denver with Bren and Josh, and we didn't have Johnny on the show. We had Harsha, dude.
There's
that
a great background story, but we won't tell that.
A little bit of a throwback. Yeah, we spent the rest of the night in Old Chicago Pizza, just staring at each other.
And then I went to, and then I took a $60 Uber to go to a house party that never happened.
college party, yeah.
Boulder.
Boulder, bro. Yeah,
they
good
were
times.
different
Bren was
times.
big at Boulder College.
We
was
were
a
so
Boulder
young
regular.
and
Big in
innocent.
Boulder.
We were so young and innocent back
It
then.
was when, I mean, I was of the age when it wouldn't have been weird for me to go to a college town, I suppose.
Do you feel like you're too old now?
What,
How old
24?
are you?
Nah, if you showed up
24
at a
is too old, actually.
24 is
If you showed
far
up at a
too
college
old.
town right now
No,
with
it's
that
not.
haircut, they'd be like, "Oh, here's the map, little freshman." They'd look at your haircut, they'd be like, "Yeah, he's gonna get stuffed in a locker."
Yeah. No, but,
Or
Didn't
guy.
they have that bar? They had like super strong drinks.
I never went,
They were like notorious for super strong something. Like margaritas.
Oh, yeah. They did
Yeah.
that
The
in
fish
Boulder,
balls
yeah.
you guys used to get or
fishbowl
whatever.
margaritas.
All
Yeah,
I would
it
hear
was
about the next
packed.
day, I would just sit there and they would just smell of just booze, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah." And here
That's
I am.
not true.
I am in Denver every weekend. I would fly in because I wanted to go see my wife because she was in Ohio and that's where I was staying. And as soon as I'd get there, it's just these three, just smelling of booze. Bren used to leave his window open and jump out into the courtyard. It was just. It was.
Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah,
It was
Bren used
simple
to,
at times.
He used to live near the courtyard. I say live. He used to like it was his apartment. His hotel room was near the courtyard.
I mean,
and
it
he
might
would
as well
leave
have
his
been.
He'd leave his big sliding window open and use it like it was like the kitchen of the courtyard. People would just go through the window and Golden Boy is making burgers out there. You know, like it was a mess.
It was a
So we
good
would
time.
celebrate. We would celebrate after a weekend. We would celebrate by like having a night together and like cooking a meal or something. And I'm not gonna name.
We did 2 shows at like 4 hours each. We weren't
Shut
even doing
up!
much.
Shut up! I'm not gonna name the name because I don't know if this is public info or if he wants it to be public info. So I'm not gonna name the name. But one individual who we worked with was experimenting how to make proper cocktails. So he was experimenting into how to make his own favorite Moscow mules, like how to make them the most optimal. And he accidentally bought alcoholic ginger beer. So he mixed alcoholic ginger beer with the vodka itself and made the strongest Moscow mules known to mankind. And we spent an afternoon absolutely gone.
Yeah.
And
you know,
it was one of the most legendary days
You know, Johnny,
I've ever been a part of.
after that moment, I have never made a Moscow Mule now without the alcoholic type of ginger ale. I
it's much
always
better.
make it with the alcoholic type now. After that.
so
'cause-
strong.
So what happened in Overwatch?
in Overwatch, I don't want to get onto that. My week off was pretty good though, Johnny. So thanks for asking.
Yeah, it's great. It's
Yeah.
great.
I tell you though,
fantastic.
I needed it because I was, this isn't even a joke, it's going to sound like a joke, but I was one step away, I was on like a knife's edge of just flying to like Indonesia and just becoming a surf instructor. I am not
Indonesia?
even
Why
fucking
Indonesia?
kidding.
Why Indonesia?
Yeah, these guys are taking off. Me and Josh are out here just owning the brand. just
Indonesia, I mean,
pumping
I
out
forgot that
these
Americans
shows.
actually think hard work is a personality trait. That's a classic thing. That's a classic thing, isn't it? The boots and the grip, pull it up. But why Indonesia? Because apparently the surfing culture is pretty good out there. So I figured, why not?
When have you ever surfed?
When have you surfed?
I've never
When have
once.
you ever gone to the beach?
It's aspirational. Go you, Bren. Learn how
Once.
to surf.
Once I surfed when I was 17, and I was in Bali, which is in Indonesia. It's a very popular tourist destination, but mainly
Did you
for
ever-
Surfers,
But
the
I love
surfers
about,
would think that a ghost just arrived
Yeah.
on the beach.
What I love talking about.
But it would be the
Bren's
ghost
like-
surfer. It's like it's like the X-Men. It's like instead of the Silver Surfer, it's the Ghost Surfer.
The
It's like an
transparent.
antagonist.
Oh, I'm gonna do this, and it's like, Bren, have you ever done that? He's like, oh yeah, when I was like 16 or 15. Like this guy must have done everything within like 3 years. He must have just done everything within 3 years, and then just stopped completely. Like, and then just done absolutely nothing. Everything
I'll
he's
tell
done
you a
is when
story.
he's like 17. Like, yeah.
I'll tell you a story. I went to Hawaii for my mom's 50th
Hawaii!
birthday. So I was like 15 at the time, and we just saved up a bunch of money. Like all our savings just went to Hawaii for this trip. So we're at the beach house, and naturally, like great waves. There were like 4 or 5 meter waves, like actually big waves,
Yeah.
And so everyone's learning how to surf, and I was this like shy, pretty chubby kid, tall, like typical Swedish guy. I'm like, okay, it's like day 4 of this vacation, and I'm finally gonna go in the water, actually gonna be brave enough to try to surf. And I just take this board with me, I just run straight into the water, and with like this belief, it's like heroic, like slow motion, like
you're
heroic
fucking Kelly
steps.
Slater pro server video game stuff.
Yeah, and it's like my hair is like waving in the air in like slow motion. You can hear the background music. There's like doo 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 doo, and I'm like running through the water. And I just slam this board on the water, and I'm like starting to crawl. And I'm crawling out towards the waves, and I'm just going because I'm gonna surf this wave, and I'm so confident. And I like crawl for like 15 seconds, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting pretty tired here, and I just stop crawling. And I haven't gotten an inch out into water. I'm still at the beachhead, and people are like, this poor Swedish man.
Oh my god.
And he can't even get into the fucking water. And I still feel so bad about it. But it's engraved into my memory.
We need
Just
to
like
get you
how
to
I didn't
Hawaii.
even get into the water trying to learn how to surf.
That's what we'll do in the offseason.
It's cringe you think back to. Like when you have bad memories, like old memories you think back to that are just cringe. Like you water your plants and one day you think of cringe from like high school. That's one of my moments, like cringe from high school. It's just learning how to surf.
We'll do a Plat chat IRL in the off season where we all go and help each other conquer something that torments us from our past. We'll go surfing in Hawaii with Johnny. We'll go surfing with Bren evidently in Indonesia.
I mean, I actually did surf. I mean, I didn't.
We'll go for haircuts with Josh.
Yeah, what about the Valiant haircut, huh?
Let's begin the show.
Yeah.
This seems like a good timestamp to give the
30
people.
minutes
What is
in.
this? 20 minutes in?
Maybe 10 minutes in. 10 minutes ago would have been a good time
Let's
to
begin with the
start,
APAC Countdown Cup. So I called it the Community Cup because I got confused with stuff. I actually completely forgot what the tournament was called at some point. But the APAC Community Countdown Cup. God, I almost said it again.
Got it wrong again.
I think that was it the previous tournament. We all thought that NA was a stronger region compared to APAC. I think that was the consensus. We were like, they seem like they've got a better grasp. Completely flipped on its head when it came to this tournament because the meta that developed, at least from what the teams were playing, some of the top teams in APAC, they seem to have a good grasp of what to run, and especially against the double shield, whereas NA was lagging behind a little bit. Do you guys agree with me?
So, is it the better region still? I don't know. But were they the ones who figured out the meta and how to play it faster than NA? Yes, without a doubt. Like, I think the compositions that they put together with the Winston and the Zarya definitely proved out to be way more effective in the long run if you are able to execute it correctly. Yeah. Just because you have so many win conditions. Nano Blade is a win condition on its own. EMP, you can have a fight win with just that. Grav, then you cycle back to a Nano Blade again. You just have so many win conditions with it. Now, will I say it is the better region in terms of like play? I think they definitely looked cleaner in this meta, but I think if you gave some of the NA teams time, I think we could still see things even out.
Yeah, I think give them enough time. Yeah, probably, but
it's a bit of a factor of time, but also it's just an insanely good meta for Shanghai as well. And I think it's probably them that invented it because they sucked at the double shield Genji stuff. Compared to their normal level where they're just dominating APAC, they looked pretty mediocre at that. Yeah. And I was reviewing the finals just now, and they tried some double shield Genji at the end, and they still suck at it. So it's fine at playing like double shield Mei Ashe or double shield Tracer Ashe. Soon as they put Fleder on the Genji, it's like their brains just ooze out of their ears and they can't play it anymore.
He's so passive on it when they play with the double shield.
Yeah.
As opposed to when
let's not talk about that just yet. I want to talk about New York versus Guangzhou as the first matchup because these are the two teams. I haven't really followed APAC as closely as one might expect for someone of my position. You would expect me to be up to date, pretty
the knowledgeable one.
Pretty keen on the ball when it comes to what's going on.
It has been like the last 2 days running at a different time zone. Yeah. So.
I will say I picked.
No, I actually did watch this match though.
Oh right,
I picked all of APAC correct.
What are you talking about then?
I got every match. I got every match
correct
in APAC correct.
I got them all correct apart from Chengdu. I thought that London would beat Chengdu, but they actually ended up performing better than I thought.
For whatever reason, I wasn't that surprised with this Guangzhou New York game. I thought that once New York was able to once there was a different look outside of like the double shield stuff and they could run that, I thought New York would be better. They have Bianca now who plays Zarya for this team instead of Hotba, which they've looked better. I also think that they're a team on the rise, and when I say on the rise, it's not like they're ascending towards Shanghai, but I think they're starting to get closer to like a team that can beat a team like Guangzhou consistently. I don't think they'll become a team that beats Shanghai like consistently as we kind of saw during this, but
I don't know about you.
I think New York just has too much talent to be held down for that long. Like eventually they're going to figure out and be good at certain metas.
The point I was going to make, Josh, just to tie it back to the previous point where I said, I was going on and on about how I haven't always kept up to date with APAC, is because the last time I watched New York and I had a good idea of how well they were performing, they would just looked like ass. So I came into this match kind of with those same biases, and I eroded them away, like the beaches of Hawaii.
Well, they've been playing well for a while now, though.
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
since
What I'm saying is I'm neglecting to do my job.
Right. The Summer Showdown wasn't a great performance from them, but all right, they lose to the eventual winners. But they played a game recently against the Shanghai Dragons in the regular season, but it was still this patch, and they looked pretty competent. Yeah, it was like a 3-1 loss. It was fairly competitive. They showcased that they could play the Winston Zarya comps well and the double shield comps pretty well. And then in this one, Kurt, I don't know whether you can find this, but when you just pulled up a clip of Eichenwald with New York playing against Guangzhou. When New York were defending, they looked like so promising. Their beginning defense, when Haxal had his blade, was so aggressive. And it was like a light bulb moment for me watching, because we've criticized New York for being this like passive reactive team for so long, not in terms of it being terrible, but just they need a different look. And then I was watching that and I was like, holy shit, they're actually like supporting Haxal so well on the Genji.
Even with Guangzhou like beating Shanghai last cup and winning it, if I was Shanghai, New York would still be the other team in that region I would be scared of the most. Just because they have the talent that they can put it together, like they could be equally as scary, right? Like I do think like Shanghai kind of has like Guangzhou's number in a bunch of metas. But like if something just shakes out in New York's favor, I think they've done a nice job now solidifying in terms of the DPS, staying with Nene and Haxal. I think they both play really aggressive. I think that's like helping up their tempo. I do wonder though, Josh, I get your take on this. What's your thoughts on like Bianca versus Hotba for the future of this team?
I can answer this one, Josh. Don't worry.
Yeah, go on then.
Oh, okay.
I think it's that's got a laugh out of Johnny.
Johnny can't wait to hear this answer.
I watched this game, Matt.
I respect Bren's opinion. You know,
I watched
this.
this.
This is what I was talking about. Look at this. They all just charge in supporting Haxal.
I watched this game.
The tanks have charged in. The Brig charges in. It's so good.
And I was so impressed with New York that I was like, wow, they look really, really good. I hadn't watched any other game. This is the first game I watched in APAC of the Countdown Cup, which was today, coincidentally. But I watched it and I was like, wow, New York look amazing. And I don't know how much of that has been Bianca as well coming in, because I think it's not the case. Overwatch isn't a game where you replace one player and suddenly you have radically better performances. But something's definitely clicking with them.
I think so.
Here's what I want to know. Sorry, man.
Yeah, go.
Here's what I want to know.
No, go.
Sideshow, you watched more than me. And, you know, I have my reasons. I'm not an analyst anymore. I'm a host. Okay.
True.
Did you see any difference in play from Mono? How did you think Mono played?
Yeah, definitely.
That aggression,
Yeah, because Mono normally, if you think about how he was playing the Orisa, even towards the end of last year, but definitely throughout the beginnings of this year, whenever he's playing the Orisa, he plays it like on an island. Like none of his team is supporting him. They're trying to take like passive positions and bait Mono basically. But here he had a number of moments. Here's the thing though, on Eichenwald, where you had really tight areas, it felt like Mano was playing really aggressive and like trying to get into their face and support Haxal a lot. But on Route 66, they played the same like double shield mirror and they got owned by Guangzhou. But that's like much more of an open, flat kind of map. Yeah. And they couldn't just find those opportunities to get value out of Haxal, and they just got kind of murdered in the tank play. But it was positive signs for New York.
It seems like some of the way they've won is almost like now kind of flipped. Like they're winning now, just kind of going all in and just playing around somebody like Haxal and just being aggressive. But like you mentioned, Josh, in those neutral games where New York, like the old New York with like Libero and Save You'll Be, was able to kind of like work you down, play super smart in those like neutrals and use teamwork and play around Jonak. They're not able to win that. But now they can just like run in. I think what you mentioned too, Bren, I don't think like one player can change like a team, like just kind of how they play completely, like subbing in like a Bianca for Hoppa. But I do think they can help elevate like pace of play and kind of be better in certain situations, where I think that's kind of why you see them make these moves. Now, I think for New York, the sad part is you started to look good with this. Now that Genji will probably be gone. We'll talk about it later. Now what do you do? Because the neutral stuff you weren't looking too hard on.
Yeah. And also, I do want to say, like, it wasn't all positives for New York in this match. They got completely destroyed on Hanamura, running double shield into Winston Zarya, and it was pathetic. It was one of the most pathetic attempts at attacking on Hanamura I've ever seen. They played the same kind of stuff that Seoul played, and we'll maybe talk about that when we talk about Seoul versus Spark.
You never want to, you never want to play the same stuff as Seoul. You never. I mean, if you and Seoul the only two people playing it,
it's like they played the double shield, and they're playing it with like Reaper McCree at different points, and I think they played it with McCree May and stuff. And it's just garbage. And it's like, it makes some intuitive sense. If you're playing against a dive team, you want to play these heroes that are really good at dive. I mean, avert your eyes, viewers, and go and listen to the podcast version of this, because this is painful gameplay. They push in and they just turtle up, have no control of the map. They just walk onto the high ground, and there's no way they can force a fight. And then they just slowly get picked off. Either Happy gets a pick like he does here, or they slowly get up a nano and then they just win overall. Like, it's so garbage.
We gotta have.
I mean,
John
me and
Spector back on.
me and Costa like often sit in TeamSpeak and we like discuss the compositions and whatnot. And Costa's a pretty smart guy when it comes to like compositions and like thinking theoretically on how the compositions play out, right? And the dynamics behind it. And both of us just sit and watch these Reaper McCree picks. And we're like, okay, it makes sense if you make like basic elementary school math. You're like, oh, they dive in, we use Reaper, bam, 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 we kill the dive. But it's like it doesn't work out in reality because like you're this Reaper, and like even though your abilities are like quote unquote mobility, you can't get in range to proactively take fights or proactively take fights on your own conditions. So you're never in control of the match. And instead, you're letting the opponent like dictate how these fights play out. And if you see a Reaper McCree, you're not going to engage straight into them. Like, you're not going to engage with them. You're like, no, I'll just stay away and I'll like blade into you. Like, I'm not gonna go. Like, I'll just play Ashe and like stay away. Like, I'm not gonna go into you. And so like, I'll just say right now, okay, I didn't watch a ton of APAC. Probably mostly because I was the host on Sunday and like I had limited time to actually study, combined with the fact that we had less time because it was like a 10 a.m. start or whatever. Like, I had less time, so I haven't watched as much APAC. But like, Jesus Christ! I mean, I'm just majorly disappointed in the fact that they're playing this Reaper and you just cannot figure out to play more Ashe and stuff.
They gotta get a league investigation into these teams running Reaper.
Okay, so I predicted. I'll say it right now. I predicted Guangzhou and Seoul to win, and both lost in map 5. And it was so hurtful that I just ignored the APAC region overall to not inflict any more pain in my heart. Like Seoul were legitimately good. Like, they were owning. They were played fantastic. And it's like they hate winning. It's like they hate winning, and we're like, we're gonna put Prophet, one of the best players of all time in Overwatch, and we're gonna put him on Reaper. What are you thinking? Who's responsible?
It was complete potato gameplay.
I don't know how anyone picks Seoul from now on.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, the community narrative after that game, apparently, because I was reading it on like Twitter and Reddit and stuff, was that Seoul were the better team, but they just threw.
Out of here with that.
I'm like, I watched the game and I was like, are they shite? Like, they played awful compositions in the latter half of that series, and they just didn't have any answer for when the Spark decided to play Winston Zarya comps. As soon as the Winston Zarya comps came out, they just planked. They just actually decided to lose. As soon as they came out on Temple of Anubis, for every map afterwards, they just lost.
So like, this is great.
You're not the better team if you can just play the double shield better. That's not how this matter works. Like, you are the worst team.
That is quite interesting.
I hate to break that to you all.
How many? You can just assume that a lot of teams were playing the Sombra comp.
How many regular season games have Seoul won since going to APAC?
I don't care.
Guess.
I'll tell you what, Matt, I'm actually in the point of the season now where I've stopped caring about the teams. That I just know I've given up on you.
Since they've gone to Asia, they've won 3 regular season games.
Yeah, I mean, cool.
That is insane.
I mean,
that's actually nuts.
This was bad for me as well, watching from the outside in. But imagine being a Seoul fan as well.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's just
but
atrocious.
At the same time, I felt like Seoul. Okay, they played some bad comps, but they are still playing. When they play the double shield mirror, they're still playing good Overwatch. Like they still actually were playing pretty good, and they beat the Spark, and they actually looked competent in the double shield. But they just don't have a handle on how the meta worked in terms of the Winston Zarya stuff, I feel. And they just got suckered into the same situation that New York did on Hanamura, where they're like, we will play a turtle comp. And then it's like, well, you're really defensive, but we're just going to slowly bleed you out.
Yeah, I mean, there is some temptation behind that, and we'll get to that later when we talk about Philly and Shock. But it's like there were a lot of people as well, even in the community, not understanding why Carpe didn't play. And I think you have to make that conscious decision that like the teams decided that Winston Dive probably is the best composition, and if you shy away from that, naturally the counter is going to be double shield and like Reaper McCree or some some version of that, like maybe some a different pick or two.
May something like that.
At some point, you have to take a stance on what you think is the best composition. And I think a lot of teams just decided Winston Zarya Dive is probably the best. And we have to just commit.
And also, when we saw those two comps clash, like when the Winston Zarya comps played against the double shield comps, the Winston Zarya comps won pretty much every time.
Absolutely.
Time.
And there's no place for Carpe in that,
I feel Jesus, the hell his headset just flew off. Bren didn't even realize. Josh's headset just flew off of his head.
It's because he oils up his head every episode.
It's because he's sweating from his head.
He's oiled it up.
He's oiled it up.
Shit every morning.
I feel bad for Seoul as well. Like I don't feel that bad when there's teams that they don't kind of invest all in their players and they lose. Like I feel bad for the players, but I don't feel bad for the team. But Seoul's gone really hard to invest in the roster, get new players, coaches. Like they really want it. It just isn't working. It seems
I will outright say, like, I'm actually, typically we talk about like caster bias and you're not supposed to be a fan of. I will actively say I am a bit of a fan of the Seoul Dynasty roster because they're supposed to be good. They're supposed to be the promised team. Prophet is supposed to be the wonder child of Overwatch. That is really good. But they cannot fulfill this potential, and so I'm emotionally upset because they're not fulfilling their potential.
Yeah, they've become the Dallas Fuel of
Overwatch. You remember at the start of the year when Seoul announced their roster, and the majority of people in the scene were like, "This is terrible."
Yeah, and then we came around to it. But the reason
I think Mendoza really just
the reason that we said it was terrible is because we just thought it would have all the same problems from the London Spitfire. Guess what? It's got all the same problems from the old London Spitfire. Like it all went wrong. It could have done well, but it didn't.
I also feel like that by bringing in some of these problems, they kind of like give some of the good players they had. Like it's probably hurt like Marvel and like his kind of progression as a player, like Michelle as well. Like
quite honestly, he was really good last year, and now you mismanaged Marvel. And
like you've turned him into like an off tank where like Marvel and Michelle were really clicking like the second half of the year last year. Like they were playing pretty well. I feel like a lot of the success they could have built on the success they had towards the end of last year, but they tried to like go for kind of home run big picks. And
I will say this. When I see Marvel playing more off-tank roles, that feels like when I was on Misfits and we put Nevix on flex support. And in hindsight, I'm like, dude, I was in Sweden and we don't even have a Kush, bro. But there was some shit in the water, man. Because, like, holy shit. Like, what were we thinking putting Nevix on flex support? And, like, I have VODs on my computer. And I upload in a Google Drive and it's like Nevix on Mercy. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing? And that's when I see Marvel on off tank, I'm like, that's like putting Nevix on flex support.
Marvel played main
better
tank.
Options.
Okay.
Marvel played main tank for the end, for the final map. Did you guys see what Mika did on that final map?
No.
If you haven't, sorry, I've got a bit of a cough. If you haven't watched any of the Soul Spark game and you feel like you can't handle the disappointment of watching Soul throw it all away, then for God's sake, just watch Lijiang Tower map 5 for what Mika does on the Brigitte. It was the single hardest carry Brig performance I've ever seen. I think he got like 5 whip shot eliminations throughout the match. And he was also setting up earlier in the season for like set play whip shots on Temple of Anubis to break certain holds. He was like flanking around to whip shot people off the high grounds. I've never seen anyone else try and get value like that because most other Brigs think that it's better to heal your team and like.
What was the series I just casted where we had a Brig get 15 final blows on a
Oh, it was
control
Vancouver,
map.
Boston. Vancouver, Boston, car.
Oh my god, yeah, I don't blame you for wanting to try and forget that.
Blows.
Wipe it from your memory, Matt. Wipe
Get
it
that
from
out of
your
here. Did
memory.
you know we got a rematch of that
When?
Oh yeah,
in the
catch-up
Countdown
games.
Cup?
Oh, beautiful.
There was
Bring it
talk-
on,
yeah,
give me
we did.
more.
I might cast that.
Bro,
I don't know.
I might be. If it's me, I might have to take that plane to Indonesia. I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be real with you. I don't want any part of it. I want to move this conversation on
We'll
to
get Kurt. Kurt
what we
will
were
cast
actually
it.
supposed to talk
Yeah.
about, which was Shanghai Dragons as a team. And Shanghai, I didn't think it was possible, but they look fucking good.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
think
They
this-
don't
I
just
think
look
this is
good.
the
They
best
look
that we've seen them.
They look so good in this meta, and I think it makes complete sense as well. It plays to so many of their strengths. Fearless is Winston. It plays towards Lip Sombra. Is it Lip Sombra?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yep. It's what's scary. I think is probably some of the best they looked. I agree with Josh, and I think that if some of the stuff on the experimental card goes live, which typically outside of like the big changes like the Moira Fade and the other stuff, typically the balance that goes into the experimental card goes into the game, right?
Yeah.
From what we've seen. If that goes in and it kills double shield and it just makes Winston comps even better with the Zarya, the only thing is replacing the Genji with a Tracer. You're kind of back in this for even more
You think
permanent
they're
amounts of time.
Maybe, but I've got some
Maybe.
other theories.
All right,
I wanna
well,
go through this when we get to
hold
the
on.
experimental
Yeah.
card,
I
but
hate
I've got some
to
other
ask this
theories.
of you because I don't want to cull the creativity, but I'm abiding by a strict schedule on my ship. Okay, not having any
Okay.
funny bits. Like when Jaws was here,
appreciate
okay, replacing me, and he was letting you talk
Yeah.
about whatever you wanted. Okay.
And that's what everybody knows you in the chat. No
We will
funny
talk-
business when Bren's around.
We will talk about the experimental card changes in section 7A.
No, I appreciate that. This is
So-
character development.
yeah.
This is like season 2 of anime. with
I
Bren.
mean, we're not a scripted sitcom. We're real people.
I'm abiding by the script, and the script is me.
All right.
So
well,
all right.
I just said that there is a potential that they can get even better. I think.
they could, yeah.
I think that when we talk about the Shanghai Dragons, the obvious question is, are they ahead of the Shock right now, who won over in the Countdown Cup in North America? I think in this meta, yeah, absolutely. You watch them play, it's sublime. The best game in APAC, if you want to go back and watch one, was not the finals. It was New York playing against Shanghai.
Yeah.
And there were so many small counter strats. It was like a game of chess. It was insane because New York had just played against them on all
I'm
the
sorry,
same maps 1 week before.
Yeah, that analogy shows me that you have been watching far too much Valorant, because that is the number one thing that the fucking Valorant casters currently say all the time is
A game of
that
chess.
game was so good it was like a game of chess. That is the for whatever reason they always use that fucking analogy, and it's starting to piss me off. So the fact that you said it means you're infected, and I might have to.
Josh is
Sorry,
he's
you'll have to cut
preparing
me
for
off.
his foray into tier 3 Valorant events. Community Valorant. He'll be casting Johnny and I.
But what? Oh, Jesus Christ! You're not in tier 3, tier 7, maybe.
Whatever. Here's the lowest tier you can get.
So Lip dominated in this series. He played the McCree and he pooed, and then he played the
Yeah.
Sombra and he mega pooed. But also the New York knew how to deal with Shanghai in certain scenarios. They had some really good set strats for how to deal on King's Row, especially. They had some really nice set strats, but Shanghai read every single one of them. Like Libero was making these like set positions to punish Fearless, and he was just getting rolled because the Shanghai Dragons were predicting it and killing him. It's like, it was crazy. It was one of the best matches I've seen in a while, and it was a 3-0.
I think it'll be interesting when we get to the actual playoffs. Like, I feel like if New York doesn't end up on the same side as Shanghai, like they'll both just kind of coast to top 2. Like, I think they have that type of potential. I think Guangzhou, New York would be close. I think Guangzhou, Shanghai will be interesting, but I think these two teams have kind of pulled away in a bit. Like Spark make it to the finals, but like, was their run like really impressive? Like, not really.
I don't think it was.
No, they get kind of dominated at the end. I mean, that's kind of why I picked the Spark to get there, though. I kind of thought they would just get there by default because of the way their bracket turned out. Like,
Okay, so this is the question I faced when I did my power rankings today. Do you think Guangzhou or Hangzhou is better?
I think Guangzhou.
I think Guangzhou is better.
New York are better.
Yeah. I think Guangzhou, even though they like, if Guangzhou was, if you replace the bracket with Guangzhou in place of Hangzhou, they definitely make the finals. Not even a question. Yeah.
Yeah.
I even think you put New York down there. Whoever was down there was going to make it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shanghai do look like they're on another plane of existence right now. But I mean, Shanghai just very, very good. I will say one of my biggest concerns with this year or this season of the Overwatch League was that some of that level of skill that you can see, the discrepancies in skill between teams, the tiers, I thought that would be eroded for the wrong reasons. I thought that we might see teams not close the gap based on them getting better, but just because of the hero pools and the COVID situation and everything just being such a mess that naturally that would mesh together the teams. We've seen that to a degree, but the tournaments have generally always seeded the true top team at the time to win it.
Well, I think it's a different way of like looking at it as we looked in the past. Like when we've had the past Overwatch League seasons, it's really been dominated by like one meta really all throughout for the most part. Like, maybe a little bit of a different meta in like season 2 towards the end, obviously, like with Rollock and whatnot.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it was like goats, and then we had Double Sniper, Winston, Widowmaker, Tracer,
triple DPS,
season 1, triple DPS a little bit. But I think what you've kind of grown to appreciate, at least I have, with this season, is that with hero pools constantly changing, you can see which teams can adjust and which teams can not necessarily master those compositions we've seen in the past, like to the highest level with like really like intricate like plays and always knowing what to do. But teams now, I think, are more equipped to adapt and figure out and play to their strengths faster than I think some others are.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And I think they're also more likely to test out new compositions as well.
Yeah.
Because they've been forced to already. So they've built up like a repertoire of different styles that they can try when a new meta hits, instead of just defaulting for like, all right, Genji's been nerfed, let's just sub out Genji and go to the next nearest thing and we'll just play that. Because that's what you've been practicing for the whole time. So of course competitive teams will do that. But something that has made me appreciate this year actually is how a different swing in a meta can totally change up who looks like, maybe not like the top team, but you can see
who
the
can
different
compete.
strength. Yeah. Like who can compete and who's at the top. And we've always known that in Overwatch. We've always known that meta shifts do define who the top teams are. But over the past couple of seasons, we've had one dominant team. We've had New York was dominant throughout 2018. And then they didn't make it in the finals, but they were dominant throughout the season. And 2019, we had the Shock and the Titans. And what has been nice this season is seeing that there are times where if we had one meta the entire year, we might think one team was just dominant. But instead, we've seen like other teams rise and fall a little bit as well. We've seen the weaknesses of the Shock as well as their strengths. We know that they're not just immortal. Like there could definitely be a meta where the Shock end up losing like they did in the Summer Showdown. Yeah. And I think there also could be a meta where the Shanghai Dragons lose. I mean, like they did in the...
I even want to give more credit to Shanghai and Shock for being so dominant like throughout many metas, because when I was a pro, it often was a time that a team specialized in one type of composition and one meta, and then that meta sort of like unlocked and they were the dominant team for like months to come until that meta ended. But like, I mean, Shock and Dragons this year, what has been so immensely impressive to me as a former player has been how they're constantly shifting playstyles and shifting compositions and staying on top of their game. So like one of the things with Shock this tournament was like they were predominantly playing double shield and pretty passively so. Like they were playing around Violets and Yara, like having a huge impact in the backline. Ans flanking on the Widow and getting picks, or it was Ashe, whatever. Striker like navigating his way with Tracer and finding a few pulse bomb picks, whatever. But they were also then adapting to dive and playing dive at the most optimal like level possible, at the highest level possible in North America, beating the Fusion. And that was so incredibly impressive to me, because I don't think regular viewers understand the shift in philosophy from playing passive and like disciplined, trusting your teammates, being okay with just waiting. Like honestly, just waiting for 5 seconds in the final for the perfect win condition to happen and then execute. It is so hard to find that like discipline to do that at the right way. And then just shifting shifting mentality and just going in, Twilight flanking and hitting huge spark grenades.
Oh yeah, that was wild.
That is so impressive to me, that you can just, on a map, just flip that mental switch in how you approach the game and play at a really high level. So I'm hugely impressed by the Shock to do that this tournament. Like, that just speaks greatness to me when I see players do that shit.
Let's move the conversation over to the North American Countdown Cup. In particular, Philly versus Paris is the first matchup we've got to talk about here. You go on then, Matt.
I'm worried about Paris for the rest of the season.
Why?
I think you saw in this series against Philly, like once the Genji type of compositions didn't work and they couldn't play around Sparkle just going ham, it seemed like the wheels fell apart. We saw the Reaper come out. We saw Sparkle on Tracer for a bit. It just seemed like they were.
That's when you boomed.
They were just boomed. And I think what also kind of like happened is like they have this thing at tank now where you have like Ben Best can play like the Rhine and the Orisa. No Smite comes in and plays the Winston. And I think me, you, and Scott were talking about it, Johnny. It's like, well, where do you rank No Smite in terms of Winston players? Like, if it's a Winston meta, like, is he good enough to compete with like the likes of Sato and Smurf up at the higher echelon in NA? I don't know. And then now if we go into a situation where, let's say, Genji's not really played that much, maybe there's not like any May or Doomfist, like where do we put Sparkle? It's almost like where we were a few months ago, right? Where they were trying to make him work in the lineups and trying to play around him, and it was like looking kind of odd, and we were like, maybe they're forcing it a bit. Genji gets that buff and he just goes crazy, right?
I don't personally think that any of this is on Sparkle, though, because you can play the Genji in any of these situations. In my opinion, it comes down to the main tank situation.
Yeah, that was what Matt was talking about that. Yeah.
I think that's the biggest issue for them, because not only does Ben Best has become really good on the Orisa, and No Smite, all right, you got questions about whether he can perform at the top level, but an even bigger issue is that you can't swap between them. Like, neither plays the other's hero at all so far from what we've seen, like pretty much none. Ben Best has played a little bit of Winston. No Smite has played a little bit of Orisa. Do you ever want to field them on it? Hell no.
Depending on who's in, you're all in on that comp.
And that means you're so readable. Like, Philly just took
running here. Yeah, Orisa Zarya.
Yeah, they
with
Zarya
Ash Tracer.
I mean, but the biggest issue for me is that they had no adaptability in this series, which made them incredibly easy to read. And they also committed to Ben Best 3 out of 4 of the maps, and deliberately picked maps where they thought that they could make double shield work, and they just couldn't. I mean, they were behind the times in terms of the meta, and they weren't flexible enough once they had decided to field Ben Best.
And then the fact that when we go to Havana, Hisu pulls out the Widow and like just starts booming them. Like, then you thought, like, if you're a Paris, like, hey, we'll take Xe versus Hisu in a Widow matchup. Like, we don't even have Carpe in the game to have to deal with in terms of the Widow. Like, that's good. And Hisu is taking like all these off angles on like flanks and stuff, and Philly just looked incredible. I think that we can talk a little bit about like Philly plays Carpe in map number 1. I don't think it's his fault. They play like these slow compositions, like trying to like, not really slow, but they kind of put Carpe off on an island on like the Widowmaker, and they play like a rush and they try and run down them with like Widow May.
Yeah.
And it just looks so bad. Carpe looked good on the McCree in the first point, but on the Widow, they were not able to get anything done.
It's also hard to get value out of that.
When they take him out and they play dive, though, that's when Philly starts to hit a stride. And I honestly think that's why they kept this team in for the finals. The same reason you saw the Shock just leave Rascal in and start playing the dive. It's because he was hot. Like, this lineup was hot. Like, they had something going.
But also, what the fuck is Carpe going to play in this meta? Like,
exactly.
What you're going to put him in on the McCree and play like the potato comps, like Soul and these kind of teams were playing? Like, it's garbage. Just turtling up.
Yeah. The one thing we were talking about is he can't play Sombra, right? Like, that's like one of the only heroes he doesn't have in his pool.
Yeah, and it's a Sombra meta right now. And that, if you want to play the Winston, as you should if you're the Philadelphia Fusion, then you're playing the Sombra. And that means Hisu's in. And all the people in the finals that were talking about Hisu being bad are just
stupid.
Watching a different game, man. They're watching a different game. They're just looking at ult charge timing. What are you doing? What are you talking about? I was mauled in about that.
Yeah, Paris is gonna be. It's gonna be interesting to watch towards the end of the season because now if the double shield gets nerfed, what do you like? Who plays, and then also like how Josh mentioned, whoever plays, it's going to be easily readable.
Yeah,
This is the play I was talking about, like this angle here at the end. This is really nice from Hisu.
yeah. He had a couple of moments where he did this.
I will say about Hisu that like I mean, he's had some moments throughout the season, but for the most part, I haven't been like super impressed by Hisu. Like he's been a good player, don't get me wrong. Like arguably great player, but like he hasn't hit this elite stride yet. And I think this was a tournament where he like really solidified his play and showed us in the Overwatch League anyway that like he can bring it at times. Because I remember like the Shock Fusion series like a month ago or so, and they just got stomped, and it was bad. It was a really bad look for Hisu. I think this was like a breakout performance for Hisu personally, and I think he can maybe like step up his game.
I mean, for me, this also solidifies what I've thought for a lot of the season is that Philly is like the real deal, right? They can beat some of these top teams. They just need a like what I feel bad for Philly is I feel like this could have been like their shot, right? Like their meta to win.
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side, anytime you can get Sato on Winston, I mean that guy he owns. Like he's.
I'm gonna be honest with you guys.
Yeah.
This tournament sealed the deal for me. I don't have hope for Philly.
I agree.
So
I was about to say this to
I
Brent.
asked this question as the host in the post show. I asked Matt and Costa, and I was like, "Is there something to it?" It's like it's a really like awkward question. And it's not fun to ask, but it's like, is there something about this?
I actually feel pretty good about Philly moving forward.
No.
If they were going to win, it would be in a meta where they have the better Sombra, the better Genji. You want to play the Winston kind of dive comps if you're the Philadelphia Fusion, and you blew it.
But
you clearly didn't have the same level of teamwork and team coordination.
But I think though, looking forward, if you're Philly. And Genji's not as strong, but you can still play a lot of these other same heroes, and you can work Carpe into some of these lineups to give you a Widowmaker look on top of something else. That's kind of like your ideal scenario.
I don't think it is because any situation that benefits Carpe benefits either Striker or Ants even more.
Here's what you quite learn as a pro player. Like you can't blame the meta because you cannot as a player, you cannot wait for the perfect circumstances because you're not in charge of it, okay? It's Blizzard trying to balance the game according to ranked so that the community enjoys like playing the game actively. It's not about you as a pro player. So you cannot wait or make arguments to wait for the perfect circumstances and the perfect meta for you to succeed as a team. It's your job as a player and arguably your job as a general manager to construct a team that is good, elite, in the most circumstances possible, because you never know what you're going to face. I mean, this is true for all of life. So, like, I'm going full Johnny Wisdom here. I'm going full Johnny Wisdom.
Don't blame the meta of life.
You want to have the best. You want to have the best preparation possible for all circumstances. So whether like Los Angeles is flooding tomorrow or we have a big ass earthquake, you want to be ready. You want to be ready to go. And if you're not, you cannot blame it on Mother Nature. You gotta be ready to go in whatever circumstances. So like, if there's a bad meta, you can't just blame it on the fact that you had the bad circumstances.
For a second, I thought Brent said, "Do you have an earthquake blanket?" I was like, "What is a blanket doing for you in an earthquake?"
do you have an earthquake survival backpack, Johnny?
My mental.
So you're not prepared either.
That's so you good.
Don't. So wait, when you guys talk about Philly, do you think that is it a thing where you don't think Philly can place top 2 in NA, or is it that Philly can't win the whole thing?
Can't win. They can't. I don't think they can win. I don't think they can win. And
do you think they're the second best team in NA
right now? Yeah. I mean, I think they're better than Paris, who
maybe
would be
not
the
in
third
the future though.
But yeah, I'm not sure whether. I don't know whether I think there's Polaris or Philly in the future, but my comment was based on whether they can ever be the best in North America or ever have a chance of winning the Overwatch.
Okay, so let me ask you guys this. Let me ask you guys this. Can Philly, with their current damage players, construct like a top 3 damage duo? Okay, because it's like Carpe and Ivy, Carpe and Hisu, Carpe and EQO, or it's like Hisu Ivy. It's like, it feels like there is something missing. And I guess I am calling out like the players. I think that when you look at some of these teams, like Shock and Eternal. It's like you got Sparkle and Xe, you got like Striker and Ants, you got Rascal.
All of these
you look at the
teams-
Shanghai Dragons, and you got like Fleta and like Lip.
I think
and
they
it's like
can.
Fusion is. I think Fusion is missing like the extra 10% in their damage roll to really just like hammer it home.
I agree.
And
with
so
you,
you're
Johnny.
always playing this underdog game.
I think they
where
have
you're
a
playing the
damage.
disadvantage odds.
They have a damage duo that is capable of winning. I think. Would
They
you
are
say?
capable of winning, but they're not. They're never
Yeah,
going to be the favorites.
Yeah.
The possibility of being so
It
favorites.
would have to
it's
shake
so
out
niche. It's so
yeah,
niche
it would have
in
to
terms
be
of meta
really.
that it's
It would
really
have to
hard.
be like what like.
No, here's
Sombra McCree type of thing.
here's how I'm lining it up in my head.
Genji
right now.
Widow. I'm like,
Here's how I'm lining it up in my head, though. You look at the
Yeah.
3 teams. Let's take Paris, Shock, and Philly as the teams that we're making comparisons to. All of these teams, I think, have spots of weakness, but some of them less so than others. Philly, I think, is the one with the most weakness, with the most weak points when it comes to a
you think
potential
Philly
meta.
has more weak points than Paris?
Yes, 100%. You need a good Widowmaker soon. You need a good Sombra player.
I mean, I would borderline agree with that because I think this was a tournament that showcased the weakness of Paris. But I think you can navigate that in most metas. I think you can navigate the bend.
See, I was about to say I am higher on the Florida Mayhem coming out of this than the Paris Eternal, but
that I do not agree with.
That's just me.
Okay, here's my thought process here is that even though I kind of agree with you, like recently I've been thinking about like when I said this on my stream multiple times today. When was the last time Carpe had a good performance in a big match? Like a match that actually mattered?
Calm down. Okay, I don't think that's a.
I'm serious.
Are we ready for this conversation?
I'm super serious because in the Summer Showdown and in the May Melee, he was non-existent, and I mean, in 2019 he didn't have any big games, so. He like the big moments when Carpe steps up and the things that we talk about with Carpe, they've all been happening in the regular season games so far, and Carpe's kind of gone missing in these big games. But even then, that doesn't make any difference to the Countdown Cup. So I don't think that it's got anything to do with that. I personally think that it's nothing to do with the personnel that they've got on board. It's to do with the teamwork. Like when I look at the Philadelphia Fusion play against the San Francisco Shock, the biggest difference to me in the most recent match that we watched was not any individual. I couldn't point to anybody and be like, oh yeah, it was you that wasn't able to quite perform as well. Like Alarm had amazing moments. Their dives were occasionally, like really clean. Sato had great moments. Hisu on the Sombra had really clutch individual hacks, but they didn't clutch fights the same way that Shock did by being able to perfectly stabilize and peel for each other. They don't have this amazing in-team fight decision making to be able to win team fights out. They're good players, but they're nowhere near as good as a team. And like this kind of moment where they're all perfectly coordinated and Shock are making a play and this comes out, like this is just magic. This is so good. And there's only 2 teams in the league that do this shit. There's only Shock and Dragons.
Yeah.
That when it comes down to teamwork and team coordination and being all perfectly on the same page, the rest of them just don't have it.
I will say though, I kind of agree with you, but I want to make the distinction that I think they are borderline right there. I don't think they are far off. Like you cannot. I don't think you can say they have bad teamwork. They're there. Like they gained 10%. And I mean, they got this.
But is teamwork something that you develop? That
yes, you can. You can develop.
I mean, it's like confidence.
Time.
It's like I think we're not going to talk about Houston Outlaws, but I think in like overtime for the Houston Outlaws, they don't have that like alpha leader to like guide the team correctly. Like give confidence and like push the spirits.
I think you can
in overtime.
Increase
I think for the Fusion,
over time.
Maybe like over time with their experience in these finals matches, that will like help them get there.
Yeah.
They've had a long time, and they've always been an individualistic team.
Well, that was what I was going to say, yeah. Go, Bren.
Do you think that Philly would beat the Dragons?
Philly?
In a month?
No.
Because that is the most likely outcome that is to come out for the playoffs.
It depends on the meta.
Well, yeah, it depends on the meta. So here's my thing.
It is
with
most
Philly.
likely that Shanghai had a #1 seed, and Philly will be the #2 seed in NA. And when they eventually collide and play against each other, It will most likely be the number 1 seed in APAC
Philly
playing as the
can
number 2
take
seed in NA.
Philly can take number 1 in NA because they play the Shock in what, this week?
Are they both tight at all in wins?
Yeah, Philly I believe is ahead of them. So
I don't think so.
No
Not with Shock winning
way.
2 tournaments, Matt.
Shock
Philly-
has won 2 tournaments.
Philly's 23-2 and the Shock are 22 and
Okay, so look at the look at the matches played.
yeah, 17 and 20.
Yeah,
But
so
one of
team has
those
played
matches is
significantly more
against
matches.
one of those matches though that Philly has left is against San Francisco. So if they're able to win that one and win out, they have a chance. Yeah.
Yeah, actually possible then, I suppose. But when you say it comes down to the meta, I think it comes down to the meta between a team like Shock and Dragons. I mean, there's like one meta that I can think of where I would say the Fusion have a chance to beat the Dragons. Like it's so remote because outside of that, their fundamental game is not as good. Like Philly need their players to all pop off.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
this was
Shanghai Dragons is the best team in the world. I think
at the moment. Yeah,
probably. Yeah. So like, obviously they're going to be favorites.
Yeah, but
Philly,
if it comes down to like a rush comp or something, then you favor the Shock.
The Shock have
comp.
4. The Shock have 4 games left. So yeah, the Shock. 23. They would tie at that point. If Philly beats them, they would be tied. And
they're probably going
go
head to head though, right? And then Shock have won more.
How many times did they play this season?
Math on stream is about.
I think they've only played. That was the first time they met up in the playoffs. So this would be their only game they would play.
Well, no, they've met before in the regular season. They got destroyed a couple of weeks ago. So it depends whether playoff games would even be included for head to head because they aren't usually.
No, they aren't.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how it would end up going, but it seems very likely that Bren's correct though, that it would be Shanghai versus Philly.
But what would you say the odds are? Let's play into my little fantasy here, because I would not give Philly a chance against the Dragons.
I think there is an opportunity. I mean, we saw Guangzhou beat Shanghai, and I think
that was a very off Shanghai though. Like it's the only
that's all
time
you
this
need.
year that
That's all you need. You need a meta to look. You need a meta to go your way, and you need 2-week break, and maybe you have a chance. But what I think is like what Philly's strengths is playing fast and forcing you into like these skill-based matchups. And I think they're able to play teams like head-to-head in that. But like Josh said, when San Francisco can do that, and they can also slow it down and kind of work you down, that's when Philly struggles. They slow down when the game slows down and becomes about teamwork, that's when they struggle. Do they have enough time to build that up? I don't know. Now, would I count them out of a series with the Dragons? No, not at all. I think they have a chance.
It's also impossible to tell because the regions have never played against each other. So who knows? The Dragons might end up getting rolled by all of the North American teams. I can't see it happening personally, but
it could happen.
Could happen. Yeah. I mean,
this brings us.
The Dragons do look superlative though.
Brings us pretty elegantly, like a swan gliding across a lake. Pristine, early morning, 5 a.m.
Aren't swans evil?
No, those are geese.
I don't think you can really apply human morals to swans or geese, actually.
Geese are mean, dude.
There's clearly some animals that are assholes.
It's territorial. It's like it's the nature of their being. They don't want you to get in their space.
Oh, fuck nature.
It's a survival mechanism, I mean, we can apply. That's like personification, isn't it? When you're applying these human. That's mainly human features.
It's called animorphs. Animorphs. Animorphs, yeah.
Anyway, the point is, everybody close your eyes and picture a swan gliding across a lake. And this is exactly how my transition into the next topic is going to be. Because can anyone realistically defeat the Shock or the Dragons right now in their current states? I think it is preordained that we will see Shock Dragons in the finals.
I think there is a very, very short list of teams I think that could. New York on a whim, Philly on a whim. Is that it?
I do think that what we've seen
Guangzhou as well.
What we've seen over the course of the season. The reason I say this, and this has any sort of any merit of discussing in the first place, I think, is just on the basis that we've seen this year be it's not like any other year in the Overwatch League in terms of hero pools, in terms of this upheaval in scheduling. Like, it's a completely different year compared to the previous two ones where you see more consistent teams. Despite that, we've still seen consistently the Dragons and the Shock. Generally speaking, they have been the better teams.
Yes.
So it would make sense to still apply that moving forward into the finals, even if we didn't know what the meta was.
Typically, though, with how Overwatch League playoffs have gone in the past, when we get that balance patch that usually comes before playoffs, it usually shakes things up a bit. Now, if the experimental patch and whatnot goes through, that could change the game a bit. Especially if both regions come out with different looks, just like we had now. And let's say NA goes to Korea, and then 2 weeks later it turns out NA had the better take. You could be in a situation where it's possible.
True.
I'm breaking the emergency glass. We're going to section 7A right now of the document. Experimental card changes. Kurt, I'm keeping you on your toes.
I mean,
this
has the biggest implications on whether those teams stay at the top or not. At least for me.
So the experimental card changes. Let's bring them up real quick. Oh, my food's here. I'll be right back.
Nice.
Can you bring them up, Kurt?
Yeah, I can go over it. I'll take over hosting duty, I guess, for now.
Thank you, Kurt.
So Brig's base health goes from 200 to 150.
Oh my god, good. Rest in peace.
Can she get one shot headshot by Hanzo now?
Mate,
Probably.
doesn't even matter. She's getting one shot by everything else in the game.
Yeah.
She's just she's gonna die so fast.
Inspire healing is reduced by from 130 to 90, 21 to 15 per second. With no what?
From Chipotle, and I didn't realize it was gonna be so small.
Oh, okay. And self-healing is reduced by half for Brig.
No longer reduced by half. So what that means is they have nerfed her in terms of her health, but she is going to heal herself faster. So you can burst kill Brig, but it will be she might actually have more effective
survivability
HP if you're
in
like
fights.
Say you're like tickling her as a Winston, she might actually have more HP overall because she's going to heal herself as you're fighting her, more than her health has been reduced.
Her base HP though makes her a Discord and a nuke target though. Yeah,
it definitely does. She is definitely diveable now.
I mean, Discord and just shoot her with Baptiste. I mean, like you don't even need anything else.
I do like the nerfs to Inspire though. I think that is pretty good against a lot of rush compositions as well. I mean, hopefully we don't get in a situation where these experimental card changes are too brutal and they make only dive viable. It's quite nice to have a range of different things applicable, but I quite like these. Brig's been
Arisa's base armor gets reduced from 250 to 200, so she becomes way less tanky, or it'll probably feel like it's less tanky. And this is the big one. I mean, players have been asking for this forever, but the halt changes finally. The radius of it's reduced almost in half, 7 to 4. And then projectile speed, they increase it from 20 to 30. So it's a little bit faster in movement, but you won't be getting halted from outer space anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, it's much more of a skill shot, and it won't drag together as many people. I like this change. I think this is a great change.
Yeah, it's a great change.
Farah changes. Her movement speed is increased by 20% with the hover jets, which I think is needed because that's why she's so crap, because she just moves super slow and you just tap her out of the sky. The regen rates reduced from 50 to 35 per second. So if I'm reading that correctly, you get less of the boost in the air, right?
I guess. Yeah, I didn't really understand this when I was reading it. Does that mean
good players that can manage their jets right now can stay in the air permanently? I don't know if that will still be the case with this change.
Right.
But didn't they deliberately buff Farah in the past because they thought it was dumb that you had to keep returning to the ground? Like, I think that is dumb. I think it doesn't make any sense. Farah should have to keep returning to the ground. Like, maybe they've just made it so that you have to be really good at fuel management.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not really sure.
Maybe with the movement speed in the air, they thought it was too OP if she could be able to stay in air easily for that long. And then rocket barrage. So you can die now in 2.5 seconds instead of 3. That's a change. I know a lot of people were waiting to see.
Have I been
I wonder-
trolled?
I will say, Pharah is the one hero that I've really missed this season, and I think it's
Yeah.
incredibly entertaining to watch Pharah
Well,
play.
it's because
in the league,
Ash is
I'm
so
really,
good.
I'm so happy if we could see some Pharah play in the playoffs.
I mean, it's also because the counter to Farah is just playing fast, and we had like really fast brawl comps as well.
Yeah.
So you just get killed before the Farah can even do anything.
All right, big.
I don't know.
Daddy.
I don't know whether this is a good change though. I mean, I'm looking at the Farah changes, and I don't intuitively understand what they'll look like. I need someone to make a video of like the before patch and after patch, because I don't get it. Like, are they trying to make her zip around in the air, but
Almost like
fall back down
Echo,
to the
where she has
ground?
to go
Like,
back
what?
down to the ground. Like Echo
I feel
can
like
go
that'd
up
be
in
terrible.
the air, but then back to the ground. Roadhog. Ammo is reduced from 6 to 5. Damage per projectiles increased from 6 to 7. The recovery is increased from 0.7 to 0.85. Does this make Roadhog? This isn't like insta-kill Roadhog again, is it?
I mean, it must be, right? A damage
I
per
think it
projectile
has to be. Yeah, I think it is. So I think it's like hook 'em and book 'em hog. It's not like
yeah.
So this does
It's
this
pretty
make
similar to how it
Hog-
used to be.
Does this make Hog playable?
It's probably very situational. I think still you probably need like an Orisa to make the halts work.
Right, yes.
The only way you can really make Roadhog work is like
He's
if like,
closer to playable though.
disrupting and like space denier. Like sometimes you would play Roadhog to just like deny an area on the map where like the enemy team can't really go. But I mean, at this level of play, it's very hard to like shut that down with like a
it
bionic
was
grenade or
also-
something, and you know.
It was also really difficult to run Roadhog into the amount of shields that we've seen.
Yeah.
Because you just don't ever get windows of opportunity, even if you're using Halt to hug people. I could see a world with double barrier nerfs that are, well, not double barrier nerfs, but Orisa getting nerfed generally, and then a barrier nerf to Sigma, where it's possible that Roadhog could come back as some kind of niche pick.
Well, that's where the
seems
damage
unlikely,
comes
though.
in. That's where the
Yeah,
damage
that's where
comes
the
in.
extra
Because
damage.
we were in a Winston Zarya meta, and that's where Roadhog should come in and shut down like the Winston and the Zarya pretty handily. But he didn't have the damage before. Whereas I'm curious to see now how the
Now
damage,
with like hooks and
buff
Discord and stuff,
gonna
he
help
could
him.
be pretty powerful.
It's the
Sigma.
Hog and Ball.
Hog
coming.
No,
Sigma.
Sigma, yeah. Thanks for leading me in there, Matt.
Yeah, there you go, Bren. Now you can
The,
take back the hosting
health has been
duties,
reduced
yeah.
from 900 to 700. The regeneration rate has been reduced, and there's been an increase on his kinetic grasp
This
cooldown.
hurts Sigma
General
bad.
survivability down. General survivability for the whole team is down. A pretty significant Sigma nerf straight away. Reasonable, honestly, in my opinion.
Yeah, you can tell the emphasis is to get Orisa Sigma out. Like not necessarily out in terms of make them unplayable, but make them close to that, I would say.
It's kind of weird because Sigma can still do all of that crazy damage that he's able to do. He just is not going to be able to play as aggressive with his positioning because he can get punished way more easily.
I mean, you see so many Sigmas just lead with kinetic grasp in front of shields and just get to like 800 HP and then.
Yeah, but I mean, that'll still be possible. Just because you have a 12-second cooldown with it, you can still use it in the fights to be able to.
He might be better with like
people.
Reinhardt now as like an off-tank type of situation. You just put down some damage, like Sigma Rein Rush style comps, but.
I think that Sigma will still be good. I think that you'll just not be able to layer the shields very effectively. He'll just have to be always on off angles, but that was how the top players played him anyway. I mean, you need to play him in like a safe location, but I think
Symmetra stuff scares me a bit.
Well, yeah. So, oh my God, what did they do to Symmetra? Teleporter cooldown is reduced. Okay, I'm just reading it secondary for the first one. Primary, what is that? Delay before losing charge increased from 2 to 4 seconds. So you have the fatter charge for 2
You have the
seconds
fatter
longer.
charge for 2 extra seconds.
For 4, so if you charge it up to full, you have 4 seconds, which is like a lifetime in Overwatch to still
long
laser
time.
somebody down. So like you can back off for heals and still be able to go back in. I actually think this makes Symmetra
She's close
low-key
to
massively more viable because the previous reason why Symmetra was still used but was not amazing is because she's so vulnerable when she plays in the front lines.
That's
But if you
100%
can-
increase.
Yeah, I mean, if you can just back off and get
Yes.
heals and still keep all of that charge when you go back to the front lines, you don't have to play as crazy aggressive as you did in the past.
She's
Here's
like
my
a mini
former
Zarya.
professional opinion. You will dive on her, and she will get pooed on.
Okay,
And you will counter her.
there you go.
Well, yeah, but you're not gonna run her if you're expecting dive. Nobody does that anyway now.
Well,
You just run her in the shield.
guess what? We're not gonna see double shield in the playoffs if this is the meta.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Zenyatta. Let's have some
Zenyatta.
changes. Secondary fire for the orb. Do you remember season 1 when they nerfed Zen's secondary fire because of Jonak free firing corners?
Okay, I don't think they did it purely because of Jonak.
Oh, it
because
was only because
holding
of
the
Jonak.
rest of the Zenyatta community to the standards of Jonak has clearly been proven false by Sideshow stream alone. So I don't think that was a fair assessment at all.
I mean, now I think they just wanted to give you a reason to use the secondary
buffed
fire
him.
because there was almost no reason to with the way it was. It
But come
took
on, pre-fire
forever.
corners and stuff. Come on, dude.
Um,
I think that was a
Okay.
pretty entertaining way to use it anyway. Just like it was unique. You could
Yeah, but
fire
if you
and, like,
play the hero now, it just feels so slow to use. Like,
no, well, everything's not supposed to be, grass is green. Life's supposed to be hard.
It's interesting. I don't know whether it's going to make a
yeah,
difference. but
when I see these kind of
Quality of
numbers,
life.
I don't really know what to think of them, to be honest. Zen,
I
the
need
primary
to-
reason Zen is picked is not because of his primary fire or right
fire
clicks.
rate.
Yeah, it's because of the Discord orb, So I don't know if this will change the pick rate of Zen. It's an interesting change. though.
Zen is just dependent on everything else. Like if Dive
Yeah.
comes back, then Zen will come back. If Dive doesn't come back, Zen ain't coming back.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
All
What
right,
do we
I
think
just
though,
wanna-
coming out of this?
I want to interject real quick. And I need you guys to tell me if I'm a dumbass. Because
Yep.
I ordered
Almost
food
certainly.
just a minute
Okay.
ago. And I went onto the app and I clicked on Chipotle. And I clicked on burrito. And it said,
Mhm.
choose your filling. And so I did. I chose carnitas.
Sure.
And the picture shows it filled with rice, beans, other good stuff. Let me show you what mine's filled with.
Did you just get a burrito with only beef in it? With only
Beef?
carnitas in it? With
Oh, well,
only
no.
carnitas in it?
Normally carnitas is shredded pork, isn't it?
No, I mean, look, I'm gonna be real, okay? When I go to Chipotle, I can never remember if carnitas is the barbacoa is a chicken, right?
What's wrong with that?
Is that just pork?
That just looks like, yeah, that's just pork, isn't it?
Only pork. There's no option to add more fillings. It says it comes with rice, beans, fajita veggies, topped with guac salsa, queso blanco, I don't know how to pronounce it, sour cream or cheese.
Give
It
it
doesn't
back.
give me the options.
So here's where I'll tell you that Postmates, historically, according to my opinion, has a very good support system, and you can get your money back.
Yeah, just do it.
They send
And you
me.
get a free burrito
Oh,
with
yeah,
only
yeah.
pork.
Bro, it's not a burrito. It's meat wrapped in a flour tortilla.
Well, you're
tortilla. base.
Tortilla.
Protein.
Tortilla, yeah, pork in a
Isn't
tortilla.
isn't that what a burrito is?
It usually comes.
You
with more
just
fillings,
described
Matt.
a
But
burrito.
do you know what the worst thing is about it? I ate half of it before I realized. And I was like, God, this is a dry burrito. Where's the rice? And I thought the more I eat it, eventually I'll get to the rice and
Eventually
sour
you're gonna
cream
eat
and
the
guac.
rice.
The more I'll eat it. And I got through half of it and I was like, this doesn't end. It's just only meat. They must have thought I was an absolute psychopath. Just
Yeah, just a carnivore.
ordering meat filled with the tortilla.
People
Tortilla-
like
tortilla?
plain
Tortilla?
burritos and stuff.
What?
Tortilla.
What?
People like plain burritos.
I mean, psychopaths, yeah. If there's anybody watching this who likes a plain burrito, I mean, I'm not even going to go in. I was
Leave
about
a
to make a
comment
joke.
down below.
Hey, leave a comment down below if
I was
you
about-
eat
I was about
plain
to- I
burritos.
was about to make a joke which would have meant Kurt had to stay up an hour extra to edit, so I'm learning.
Give us your Chipotle order in the comments down below. And if you're
Yeah.
European, just say that
Why are we
Swedish
giving them
Tex-Mex
free
is better.
advertisement? Is what I want to know.
Why-
I'm trying to
why-
lure them in.
Why
I'm
are
trying
we
to get a
predicting the
card.
meta?
What? Oh, so
Oh,
the
yeah.
meta,
Because
yeah, okay.
speculating is ass. I mean, truly, we will have to see. But we do not really know.
I can see
us to speculate.
I can see Orisa still being played.
We see some kind of dive with maybe some far on like Nepal village.
No, Bren's got a theory, dude.
I can still see Orisa being played after looking at those changes. For some reason in my mind, I thought it was another shield nerf to Orisa, but it's not. It just makes the Halt a little bit less oppressive. Which
Orisa hog, dude.
The shield isn't. You don't need a shield nerf to get Orisa out of the meta, I think, because if you nerf her health, then when she fortifies in order to stay alive while her shield is down, you're going to be able to kill her much more easily. And I think that the combination of that plus the fact that you have a much weaker Sigma barrier in front of the Orisa shield a lot of the time as well, it's going to feel a lot easier to get through that Sigma Orisa kind of system.
And you're not going to be able to do those big Halt accretion combos because we see they shoot the Halt so high above like the double shields and whatnot. You're not going to be able to pull those off as easy, I think.
But honestly, at the end of the day, is anyone playing against Orisa Sigma and shooting the shields?
No,
like
you're
not
around the shields. Yeah,
you're going around them, like you're not poking the shields.
I mean, that makes it viable now. If the shields are nerfed, it makes it more of a viable target because you get more effectiveness out of shooting the shields. So it changes the prioritization of the composition.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting, like, if people go to the dive, if Genji is still played in it, like with the nerfs, because we didn't have the Genji nerfs in this. Like, do you commit to it for the Nano Blade? But everything I've heard from pros and playing Genji on live, they're like, nah, he's out. Like,
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I would defer to them. But even if Genji is out, I think that you've still seen Sombra Tracer be very effective at the pro level, and I think that could be super viable. But I also. Sure, yeah. And also the rush compositions that people were previously running with the Lucio and Batiste kind of stuff, they're still viable. Those kind of things could still make a resurgence either with the Diva or with nerfed Sigma, just because you still get a lot of damage.
What about Zarya?
Zarya as well. But Brent, but Matt, this is where I come to my thesis.
Yeah.
Right? Because when we had Orisa out of the hero pools, we ended up in a ball Zarya meta, because you can't play rush into it. You just get knocked around all over the place and you get
But
rolled.
isn't Sombra super effective against this?
It actually didn't end up being effective against it particularly, because
they bubble the hack.
Yeah, they bubble the ball when he goes in, and they played it with the Genji and the Ashe, but I think you could still play it with a Tracer Ashe. Like a Tracer Ashe ball Zarya, and then like a Mercy Zen kind of backline is what the new version of it would look like. Can that be defeated by like a Sombra Tracer? Yeah, definitely. But
could she play McCree?
Very viable.
No, you can play McCree into that.
I was going to say McCree.
No. The question becomes in that step, it's like the Wrecking Ball increases the tempo to such a fast pace that your only viable strategy would be to counter dive with like a Lucio Moira towards the enemy backline.
Because what happens
like ignore the Wrecking Ball and go for the enemy backline in that case. Yeah. So the question becomes, can you play like Winston Zarya into it with Lucio Moira?
Because we saw a team try and play McCree against it. We talked about the match. It was an APAC match.
Yeah, it was probably Chengdu against someone.
Chengdu, New York, right?
It was Chengdu, New York. Yeah. New York tried to play the McCree, remember? They tried to play...
Okay, but that was a very poopy performance from New York.
Yeah,
I don't think that was a representative of how the meta played out.
But what tank line do you run with the McCree? That's the important thing to consider. Like, all right, McCree in theory is great against that comp, but like you run it with a Rhine because
I was almost just like
battered to pieces.
I was like Rhine Zarya with like a Lucio and play like a really mid-close range rush with like McCree.
That's just a rush, and ball Zarya is so good against rush because that ball just comes in with a Zarya bubble and he just scatters you like pinballs, and the rest of the team just runs away and you just pick the rush team off.
I was like Lucio Moira with like the
Rhine, saw New York against Charge. We saw Charge try and run rush comps against a ball Zarya comp from New York, and New York just dunked on them. Even when they tried, they had to end up just mirroring.
I was like, maybe
Chengdu meta could be coming, bro. If we get Chengdu meta for the finals, can you imagine Chengdu actually making the APAC finals?
Okay,
they lose their Genji though. They lose Genji.
Let's go back into the rundown. Imagine strictly Chengdu meta. Who wins between the Shock Dragons and the
Yeah.
Could be Chengdu. It actually could.
Yeah,
Like, if we
it could be
actually get
Chengdu.
into a Chengdu meta, I'm not sure who beats them because that is the start. That's their fucking juice. That's what they live on. They've just
don't
been
gotta play-
wallowing
it
in
could
that
be
for
Chengdu.
years.
You don't gotta play Elsa on fucking Winston, dude. You can play Eamon on the ball. Yeah, I mean that's why this is so important, Brennan. That's why I was saying like you almost can't have that conversation without having this one because like if ball ends up being like a meta pick, like
Yeah,
Who
I mean, all
knows?
hell's broken loose at that point, hasn't it? That is the only one in which everything just goes to shit, though, because Chengdu were rolling I mean, rolling is such a fucking dumb word to use because it's the pun, but they were dominating everybody over in APAC. They didn't play against Shanghai, but
you know
they
what's
beat everyone
crazy?
else.
Guess who doesn't have any makeup matches left?
Chengdu.
So nobody would be able to see them play for 2 weeks.
Nope,
And
no
see
one
what
would
they're
have
running.
any idea what they're running. No
Nobody
one would
have
even be
any
able to learn
idea
from
whether
them.
it works, whether it's what. Then nobody would have a clue. Chengdu could just come out and
Mate,
plays this
If
ridiculous
Chengdu
shit.
win the Overwatch League this year,
Is there
they
any
win the
better
Overwatch
way?
League
Is
this
there
year,
any? Is
I
there any
will.
more fitting way to end the year with Chengdu winning? We put them in the Chengdu zone the entire year, and imagine 2 weeks before the playoffs, we get a wrecking ball patch
think
with
of what
Sombra,
is
and they
fitting.
come in and just win.
We need a bet. We
I
need
will
a
get
bet.
a
What do we
Hammond
do?
tattoo on my ass.
There it is.
I will literally get a
it
Hammond
is.
tattoo on my ass if Chengdu win the Overwatch League.
I mean, it's unlikely, but
I don't think
could-
it's going to happen.
I genuinely can see a world in which it happened. The biggest question to me is Jinmu can't play the Genji, probably, because we don't think the
Probably.
Genji
We
is going to be
assume it
viable.
would be gone.
So we assume that it would be a Tracer Ashe. If it's Tracer Ashe, Chengdu don't have a very
Yeah,
good
they
Tracer
don't.
player. So that could be the key to Chengdu not actually
Here's
winning.
where you
What
make the
teams would
mistake.
you know what
Hold
team
on.
I would like
The
in that
mistake
meta?
you make, maybe Jinmu Farah, but here's where you make the mistake. That Jinmu doesn't play the Genji when it's shite.
True.
Jinmu will play it.
True, Jinmu
They'll
always
play
plays
it.
Genji.
And they'll play it on and just play for blades with the ball.
Yeah.
What teams
team
do
did
would you
Crystal
like
go
in
to
that?
again?
Crystal's
Crystal
on
went to the
Guangzhou
charge.
as a 2A player. New York would be interesting in a ball Zarya. With
They actually look good at it recently.
With Mono and Bianca, if it was Tracer Ashe.
You guys are forgetting,
Sayobi-
actually. You know who you're
Nene?
forgetting about in a ball meta?
Who?
Rio.
Rio's all right, actually. It's pretty
I
decent.
thought you
But
were gonna pull out this like incredible wrecking ball player that we had all looked over.
Hydration.
You're just like,
Hydration Houston
Rio.
Outlaws.
I think Rio is second best wrecking ball in the Overwatch League.
How have we seen Krong perform outside of Sigma?
He doesn't play wrecking ball, Matt. He's not in the conversation.
Yeah, but outside of, I know, but
Zarya's been pretty good. I mean, he had one beefed moment that people meme about in their match where he missed a grav and it cost them the round. But his Zarya's generally been pretty good.
New York.
what
New
about-
York with, Zen in the mix? Tracer and Ashe is not a bad shot.
What about London with Jihan?
Ooh, little sleeper pick.
London win the Overwatch League? Again?
They played-
No.
They played Ball Zarya against the Shanghai Dragons, and they went to 5 maps against them. Like, they actually looked pretty good. A Glister on the Tracer and the Ashe, Shui on the Genji, and they got it all the way to 5 maps against Shanghai in
Can you
a match
play-
where otherwise they would have just been dominated.
Can you?
That was
really,
against Lip Sombra as well.
Can you really not play like May McCree Rush against the ball?
You can't. So what happens is the ball rolls into you, and it's got a Zarya bubble, so you can't stop it. There's no CC that you can use to stop it, and it just batters you around, and your players just fly all over the place. And then the rush combo only works when you're all close together, so you end up getting picked off by like the Ashe or the Genji or something, and like your backline gets booped out of position. Like it's hard. It feels like it should be a theoretical counter, but it's hard.
Yeah, I'm just thinking without the Genji to like assassinate so fast, if there's a way to survive all of
Tracer's
that.
still
Like
pretty good at that.
Tracer's still pretty quick.
I don't think so.
What about What about if Shax is able to play the Tracer and
they'd get spicy.
and Gig turns out to be a ball freak?
Gig on the that's a spicy team.
Then you're getting a Valiant tattoo, and then I am definitely getting a Chengdu tattoo on my ass.
I was thinking even a team like the Gladiators, maybe Ash Tracer with Birdring and Kevster, and then OG on the ball.
Dude, you remember Asher's Tracer?
Who?
Asher.
Oh yeah,
He's a rapper now.
Yeah, he's a rapper now, dude. I've commented on his latest Instagram video. I commented on his latest song on Instagram, and I was like, "Damn, this kind of hits." Feeling it a little bit.
Rapper?
Now, see, if I was New York and Shock, a ball meta would scare the shit out of me because that just screams just chaos, right?
It does, yeah.
Like, the way they lose is remember we were talking before with like Philly and like how Philly plays like really this like free flowing style, but when it kind of slows down, it gets back to the teamwork. That's kind of when they don't have that 10%, like Johnny put it. If you get fucking a wrecking ball meta, you don't need the 10%. It's just players everywhere. Players just getting knocked all over the place. 1v1s everywhere. That is a meta where somebody can get upset. I even like this is a shout. I mean, it's not like a Dark Horse team. Fate on the ball with Yaki back on Tracer and BQB on Ash. That's when they look their best with the BQB Ash and Yaki on Tracer.
They're a very fundamentally strong team, though. Like, I don't know, like it's a different circumstance and approach to the game. Like, there's a different mindset. I'm not questioning the Fate ball, but it's definitely a different mindset. You'd have to get comfortable in that meta.
You'd have to play so fast.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
I'd be excited to see that. I think teams would be like freaking out trying to figure that out, though, in a short amount.
Yeah, they really.
I can't wait for this to not be the meta. We'll just wait.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, of course, it won't be the meta now that we've talked about it. But
no,
I think if it's some kind of rush meta, obviously Shock are your favorites to be taking the tournament. If it's some kind of double shield meta still, then it's between Shock and Shanghai. If it's some kind of like, I don't know, if it's some kind of like Doomfist or some shit, then maybe Paris is squeaking in or something. Like some kind of Hackfist comp.
Let's talk about the T-Mobile MVP because the voting's opened up. The people at home, you guys watching, you can all vote now for the T-Mobile MVP. And we got a couple of candidates as well. I mean, off the top of my head, we got Exy, Joy Hyobin, Arpe, Lam, Wrong,
Eileen,
Twilight,
Fleta.
Eileen, Fleta,
Twilight.
Two more.
Twilight is not an MVP candidate. You cannot vote for Twilight.
What about
Violet?
Fleta?
Violet.
We mentioned Fleta.
It's
we mentioned
Carpe,
Machine.
Yaki, Exy,
Oh.
Krong,
Yaki
Eileen,
Exy.
Krong.
Void, Choyobin.
Void was the one.
Oh yeah.
You got it? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
We
There you
mentioned
go.
them all.
Good-
Let's move on. No, I'm kidding.
Those are some good boys that they've got, you know? You could vote for any of those and I'd be happy. Actually, when I posted my...
main tanks this year,
What?
no main tanks up for MVP. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
It is interesting, especially when Fearless and Smurf have played so insanely well. Like Fearless and Smurf were both. So we submitted a top 10 as well, which was part of the process used to find the shortlisted candidates. And I had both of those players on my shortlist, especially Fearless. Like I had him super high up. I thought that he's been so important for Shanghai.
I had Fearless, but I didn't have Smurf. But that was because we submitted it before Smurf started to like go absolutely wild.
It was before he started playing Winston, I suppose. He'd just been playing Orisa all season.
Who did you have as your number one, Johnny?
Number one?
Yeah.
I mean, let's not talk about it. One player I did have pretty high though was Rascal. I had Rascal pretty high up, and I was pretty vocal in our, when we found out who they were. I was very vocal in conversations how I was very disappointed to not see Rascal there, because I think Rascal was a victim of recency bias because he hasn't had a ton of play time the past month or so. As we've shifted towards the Genji meta, and I mean, he came out this Countdown Cup and was fantastic on the Genji.
Yeah, he actually played really well.
Maybe one could argue that he wasn't as good as Sparkle in the Summer Showdown, but he certainly was up there, certainly top 5, probably top 3 and then you can like, whatever. But he's certainly up there, and I think his Echo play and May play early on in the season, we forget about that. But like half a year ago, Rascal was a huge part of the San Francisco show.
Yeah,
he was one of the best mates in the league. And like you take a look at the Echo stats now, and Rascal's Echo stats, like they're not,
I think my
world beater. But the first few weeks of Echo, Rascal still was the guy who showed the way in how to play Echo. And I think, I'm pretty sad about Rascal because I think he really deserved it. But because of recency bias, we got a few new faces in there that has been good, but not throughout the season.
My top 3, I think, that I submitted were, I don't remember the exact order. I think it was Carpe, Violet, an Alarm, and then I think I had Void right after that. I think that's how I had my top 4. I don't remember the order. My gut tells me I want to say I had Carpe, Violet, Alarm, and then Void, but I found it hard to put Void up that high because I found it very difficult to pick from Shanghai because they had so many standout players.
Yeah, that is difficult.
I was like, well, if I have Void at number 4, like I could literally have put like Li Gon there or Fleta there or Fearless there. Like I found it very difficult to kind of.
But also when I think I was thinking on stream, like if I put the best players from their positions all year into a super team, like I try to put the best flex DPS and then the best hit scan DPS and best main tank and best off tank, it ends up just being Shanghai with a couple of different players, like with 2, maybe 3 different players. So kind of crazy.
Typically, the MVP doesn't go to a team that has that many players because the same thing we're talking about here, where like I think it's Void and you think it's Lip and Bren thinks it's Fleta and Johnny thinks it's Fearless, right? Like
Fleta.
No, I was just using it as an example. I
voted for Moth as my number 1.
Okay.
Oh lordy. You're the reason that these things go wrong, bro.
I would rather have 100 me's than anyone else. I reckon I've got more clue what's going on there.
Jesus Christ. I think Violet versus Alarm is a really good combo.
I don't want to just brush over
get
this.
there.
What?
What was Johnny gonna say? Johnny, say. Bren was just shouting.
I was gonna go to a conversation. Are you saying anything, Bren?
Yeah, I wanted to not brush over my moth pick because you guys all laughing.
Defend that, and then I'll go.
Yeah, defend it. Go.
You guys are all laughing at me.
Nobody laughed. Yeah. We literally just we gave you like a look. Nobody really laughed.
I gave you a little giggle.
Here's my justification, okay, for Moth to be my number 1 MVP.
A candidate, yeah.
So I was kind of trying to game the system because I knew nobody was going to vote for Moth. So I decided I will use all of my power, which is a super weighted vote, into trying to get Moth into the top 10. Might not be the number 1, but I was going to try to get him into at least the runnings by voting for him because I think he has proven to be, at least when the shock look best, which is during rush metas, a large part of that has been Moth's Lucio. Now, he might not be the best Brig or the best Zen in the world, but that's okay because when he's playing the little froggy boy and he's zipping and zooping across the high tops, he is the one who's setting up a lot of the plays. He's the one who has the impeccable timing that allows shock to pop off in rush meta.
So you go in like a
coma post-week 7.
Matt. Let me ask you this, Bren. Do you think Moth has been the most valuable player in the Overwatch League this season?
In the league this year. Has Moth been the most valuable player in the whole league? Is Moth more important to the shot?
I think he got the question, Matt. I think he understood the question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, very good move.
All right. Well, there you go.
And I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you why. In teams,
I don't think we need a justification.
Yeah, I don't even care for this justification. I want to hear it. I want to hear it. It's going to be amazing. I want to hear it, but I don't care for it.
You know that Bren is part of the Plat chat brand. Like if he goes down, we go down with him.
This is the chaotic energy that everybody said they didn't want back on the show, but they desperately do.
People love Bren. I love you, Bren.
In teams with a lot of just chaotic, boyish energy, you need this central grounding figure, this lightning rod of responsibility, and that's what Moth is. When his team are like jumping on each other in the sofa behind him in his personal stream, Moth is there grinding away, explaining the interactions between sound barrier and how it has a slight delay in terms of the line of sight activation. He is there just focusing on the game, just being a guy, just being a dude.
And that's why he should be the MVP.
I will say that I keep thinking that he's a little bit undervalued as a player. Across the board.
People thought he was the best. People hands down thought he was the best before he just got the meta just changed. And
then why is he not in the top 10?
Because his heroes aren't being played, and because previously, also though, genuinely to answer your question, is because a lot of the value of Moth was in his like leadership and control of the team and this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and then the Shock just pound without him as well.
Stan One played pretty good for 3 weeks. Why isn't he the MVP?
When I made this vote, when I made this decision,
this was a bit drunk.
It was when the Shock were not looking too good, when they were playing Twilight and Violet in the same roster, in the same lineup, and one of the key differences was the absence of Moth, which led to my decision to think I've got to try and game the system. I've got to try and get Moth into voting because I know no one else is going to do it. And I think he was, at that time, the most valuable player on the Shock. Now, since then,
things have
changed. And it could be that I should not have this power or any sort of responsibility or position of authority in the Overwatch scene.
Okay, well, I'll say this, okay? There's a lot of people who are listening right now. There's going to be people already typing in their comment as they haven't even finished listening to Bren as we speak, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Reddit. Someone's sitting on their bus on their way to school, and they're furious, fist clenched at Bren's explanation to this, okay? Some little guy with his backpack, angry at how dirty this bus is, and Bren's rant has just pushed them over the edge, okay? But let me remind you, listeners, that there's a lot of people, okay? And this is not me speaking on behalf of Plat. This is not me speaking on behalf of T-Mobile. This is my personal opinion, okay? There's a large part voting for XE as well, for the most valuable player of the league. Personal opinion of mine, doesn't represent anyone else but myself. I don't think XE is the MVP of this year either. So if you disagree with Bren, having actually considered Moth for his fantastical play, contributing to San Francisco's success as a brawl team, and you think it's okay for a lot of people to vote XC without speaking up against it, then I think that you're actually being quite... Then I think you're actually being quite... I cannot come up with a word. I think you're actually being quite...
Unreasonable.
Not naive.
Dishonest?
Dishonest.
Yes, a little bit dishonest, yeah. So I think I respect your vote to Moth as much as I respect people voting on XE.
Well, everybody's entitled to pick who they want to pick.
Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I think XE had a very long break throughout the season and didn't justify his play in enough matches.
I am amazed that he's leading the race.
So I think that there are better candidates. Personally, not on behalf of T-Mobile, not on behalf of Plat, but personally, I think there are better candidates. So if you're upset, you little Timmy, on your way to school, on the bus, and afraid of COVID, sorry, little man, you don't have a say in talking shit about Bren, because he actually justified it and has reasoning.
True.
And there are people voting XE. So there you go.
True.
And you can
maybe
vote
Super
on
will
Twitter.
tweet at me and it'll be like, oh.
Yep, you can vote on Twitter.
Using hashtag T-Mobile MVP in the battle tag of the person
and you can also go to overwatchleague.com/MVP. Is that it?
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Sure. Sounds about right.
Here's the better MVP discussion. Out of the 10 candidates, who would have the coolest skin?
Oh, damn.
Gesture.
Gesture's not a candidate. I think a Carpe Ash skin with a fish head on Bob would be elite.
That could be pretty sick.
That would be elite.
I don't know enough about the players.
This is why you vote. You vote for the MVP skin potential.
Yeah.
If you Alarm and Violet, you would probably do like an Ana or a Baptiste, which could be cool skins.
Which one is the biggest weeb? Because I would. Oh my god! If Choi Hyobin watches anime, we should all be voting for Choi, because I reckon he would get a banging anime diva skin.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Well, you're not a weeb, so I don't know why you're agreeing with me, Matt. I feel like that was a bit disingenuous.
If the skin looks cool, it doesn't matter. I don't care.
I've also just realized that Eileen is the only the only non-Korean player that we have in our MVP vote. That's I don't know whether that's normal for us in the Overwatch League that they're all Korean players. I mean, it certainly wouldn't have been last year because Sinatra won.
Super was up for it.
2018, I feel like it probably would have been, but I just noticed that then.
Yeah,
I think the system worked differently though. We didn't have finalists, didn't we, in 2018?
I can't really remember.
What that was year one. I mean, was there? What it was, yeah, I mean, everyone kind of voted between, it was Jonak, Fissure, and Carpe year one, right? Those were like the hot 3 candidates.
Yeah.
I think Carpe would make the best
agilities
skin.
as well, actually.
Dude, all the Chinese casters and stuff voted for agilities. It was crazy.
Yeah, they really liked agilities in season 1.
It was absurd.
I think you can still make a case that, like, Carpe deserves the MVP for how Phillies performed throughout the whole season.
Okay,
but then I think if you made the case for Carpe, you have to make it for Alarm, right? Alarm's been nuts.
I'm just going to say, it's been a very long season, and recency bias is a thing. So Carpe was good early on, but...
Carpe was good at the beginning, and he's been statistically good, but I think you're some kind of basic Barry if you're voting for Carpe, because it's just...
Basic Barry, dude.
It's just... The guy getting more kills equals best player. I don't think he hasn't had big performances in big games this so far.
Call of Duty mentality. A guy who gets more kills is the best.
Yeah, but he just hasn't been as influential recently either. Like for the last 2 months. I don't mean super recency bias, like him being subbed out the Countdown Cup, but the last 2 months, he's not been the star of the show. It's been the Genji, which it's been a Genji meta, but even before that, like you could argue that Ivy was more important in the main McCree meta than Carpe was. I don't know. I feel like the Carpe MVP thing, like if you're gonna vote for some kind of
it's gonna be
superstar,
super close.
If you're gonna vote for some DPS superstar, mate, vote Fleda. He's been so much better than Carpe this season. He's nutting on
so
kids.
spicy.
Yeah.
I think this is gonna be the closest MVP I think we probably had.
Oh yeah,
in terms of voting.
I think it's between 4 candidates. 4. Okay, 4 is a lot.
But like
it's
4 candidates you can make an argument about. Yeah.
Violet, Alarm, Fleta, and Void. I think it's between those 4.
That's I mean 2 of my choices are in there
and
as well.
And then Carpe is borderline in there as well.
That's what I think is. That's what's great about this year. I feel like the year 1 it was kind of clear that it was Jonak. Across most people. Last year, I think Sinatra was clearly the MVP, right? I don't think anyone really kind of had.
No,
I mean, Twilight was probably the other one.
You could have argued for Super, actually. I think Super was also really important in that system.
I think part of splitting APAC and NA is now we're so split, right? There's a strong argument for people in both regions, and I think if you have those like top 4, I think if you polled a bunch of different people, everybody would have a different outcome of who is like. There's not like one universal pick, which I mean personally I kind of like. I kind of find it anticlimactic if we already know the MVP kind of as we're going.
Oh yeah, I have no idea.
I also think that Rookie of the Year is really cool this season, but it's like for me it's Alarm, Lee Jae-gon, Lip, and in that order in my opinion. And I think that if Alarm wins MVP, which I think there's a strong chance that he could, you have to give him Rookie of the Year because you can't not be the Rookie of the Year and the MVP. Like you just can't. But at the same time, Lee Jae-gon has been insanely good. Like he is. I think anyway that Alarm is the best flex support of 2020 and Lee Jae-gon's the best main support of 2020. Yeah. And it's crazy that they're both rookies. It's crazy. And Lip's arguably been one of the most important hit scan players as well this year. It's wild.
It's been a good year of players.
Oh, a lot of good players are coming in the league this year. I feel like the
power rankings.
The power rankings, yeah. Such a good, just burst into laughter next to me.
Because all you did was just shout time, and you just went like this, like you were conjuring some magic.
Wrap it up.
You look like he looks like Yerk when he calls out the healing rain as the shaman. You know,
you're making references to our WoW raid.
Yeah, I did.
Oh yeah. What do we do for power rankings again?
Well, I believe
this is what you guys had last time.
What absolute papagas put Paris at number 1? I cannot believe the logic behind that.
This is when we did it.
Has always been number 1. I don't know why anyone on
There was a reasonable argument with Paris, how good they've been looking, how many different looks they had, and they'd won the previous tournament. Shock had been struggling a little bit. It was not crazy.
Who touched my power rankings, huh?
Dallas Fuel number 5. Huh? Who is
Dallas
behind this?
Fuel number
Absolute.
Look,
Yeah,
it's
this is
it's
atrocious.
been a bit since we did this.
Valiant 5. Valiant 5.
Okay, wait there. We need to set up a structure. In my opinion, we should be rating the teams not for this current meta, but for like how we feel about them moving
Going
throughout the rest of the season. Almost like where we think they would place at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So Valiant 5.
Does anyone? What do people? Am I the only one who kind of has an inkling that Florida can pass Paris?
Now? No.
I think that Florida were a bit of a double shield team.
Really?
Yep.
Like I do think that Florida have good strengths outside of that, but I think a double shield nerf maybe hurts Florida more than anybody else.
Florida Shock was pretty close.
If you want to predict the future, and not base it on past performances, I'd almost move Florida below the tier break.
Really? You think it's going to affect them that much?
No, I'm not necessarily think it's gonna. I don't think they belong to the upper echelon of the top 3. I think the top 3. If you're going to predict the future, I think the top 3 is clearly better.
That lump of teams.
Okay, we could do a tier break between Paris and Florida and 5.
I think Florida performed really well in the recent tournament, and I think that they have slowly been improving over the course of the season as well. I think they. I would have agreed with you before seeing them this weekend, but I think they.
Oh, I used to put them above.
I think they belong up there.
Yeah.
All right, so put them behind Paris, and that's your top 4, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's any kind of.
I'm just trying to ruffle the feathers of Albert, because I know he's watching and he's like, Johnny, what are you thinking? I'm just trying to
What
upset
in
Albert.
the hell do we do post the tier break,
Dude,
though?
Kurt, just put them in. Put them up.
Backer. Yeah, there you
I
go.
think.
Thank you.
I mean, am I? Maybe I'm going crazy here. I actually kind of liked Atlanta for the first time ever.
I agree with you.
No.
Yeah,
I agree with
I
you.
don't think Saucy is not good enough. No,
Welcome
Saucy
on
needs
board.
more playtime.
Dude.
Saucy needs more playtime.
I'm with you, Josh.
They
No.
don't gotta play Genji, dude.
Yeah, he doesn't have to put. Well, I mean, Saucy, I don't think is even going to get fielded, is he? If
Yeah,
there's a
probably
Genji
not.
nerf.
He has already played. He played
No.
over the course of this past weekend.
Yeah, but all he played was Genji. I mean, in the
Genji, yeah.
future. Do you even think Saucy's going to get played over Edison or Rooster?
Well,
Or
he did get
Sharp.
played the past weekend. Am I going to predict
'Cause he
what
played
Brad is
Genji.
thinking?
That's the first time I've seen Matt get angry at something.
It's such a stupid argument.
Okay, so you think it's a stupid argument that I like KSP and Shax from the Valiant when we move away from Genji?
No, I think we're just like the fact that you're basing that we saw 2 games of Saucy who they brought in to play Genji, that you assume he's going to be the player in the lineup for the rest of the season. That's what I kind of find dumb about it.
Oh, okay, here goes Mr.X. So like, yeah, we saw Sterling like May playing May. I think that was really
May was
indicative of the
good.
future of the May.
It wasn't good recently, though, but it was
I
good
think
at the
Valiant
beginning.
number 5.
Train.
Valiant
Okay.
number 5.
You were
I can-
supposed to be my buddy on the Atlanta train. Now you're.
Here's
now
what I would
Saucy
accept.
throwing you off.
Valiant are a better team in so many different compositions than Atlanta Rain.
Here's what I
Atlanta
would
Rain are
accept.
good in double shield and when they rely on Edison's Tracer.
What
Valiant
will
are
Bren
better
accept?
overall. Dallas Fuel, like move
Valiant?
them below Toronto or some shit. Get rid of Dallas.
Valiant,
Yeah, get Dallas out of there. Move him to the middle of the pack.
Atlanta,
Wait, sorry, what are you saying, Brent?
Outlaws, Gladiators,
You're just reciting
Dallas.
teams.
He's just rattling
What-
off
what?
teams. He's just listing off teams.
This is my order. This is my order.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you see that note that the Outlaws were
Yeah,
what?
good work,
3
Matt.
and,
Take him off topic. Take him off topic.
Yeah,
with
yeah,
my
there you
point.
go. Knocking them off track. The Outlaws, I think, were 3 and 8 with they're 3 and 7 with Muba. They're 3 and 8 with hydration. Like they haven't really improved probably as much as we have thought.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I
does
think-
that surprise me? No.
Well, you know.
They've looked better, I think, but
I think
You're just looking at
they-
statistics.
I think I don't think they can close out matches. I think they look better, but they
From
can't
the- yeah,
close out
from the-
matches.
the eye
I'm
test.
okay with Valiant Atlanta, I think, are clearly 5 and 6, right?
Here
I don't-
is
Yeah.
my
Yep.
list.
Yep.
Go on then, Bren.
Valiant, Atlanta, Outlaws.
No, gladiators. You're supposed to say gladiators, not outlaws.
No, do you think the Outlaws are better than the Gladiators right now?
Yep.
I mean,
don't
that's
trust
such
the
a
Gladiators.
sad
I don't trust the Gladiators. They had an okay showing in the tournament. Don't get me wrong. I just don't trust them.
Outlaws have been horse shit all season long at anything with a Winston or a Ryan.
Did you see the overall rankings? Did you see the overall standings that like Outlaws are like 16th or 17th?
Hell yeah. I mean, they can only get wins in certain metas, and even then, they sometimes don't get the wins because they just choke them away.
I would accept.
What about giving my boy Toronto some love?
I will
put them
accept Dallas Fuel
above
Outlaws.
Yeah, that's fine.
And
put Toronto above Dallas. Put Toronto above Dallas. Above Dallas. Above Fuel.
Oh, no.
One more, Kurt. I believe in you.
I don't like that.
One more, Kurt. Toronto above
I don't like Toronto
Dallas
above
Fuel.
Dallas. I don't like them above Outlaws.
Where it is
Dallas,
now?
There we go.
No.
Do you think
It's coming home.
You think Toronto are going to be able to do anything without Agilities playing the Genji? Playing like Logic
They have
Showfall
looked
and stuff?
only
that's a
good in
point.
recency because of Agility's Genji.
That's a good
Sure,
point.
got a good Sombra. Maybe they play some good Sombra stuff.
I actually think that the general pace of play from Toronto is awful. It's like watching an upgraded Washington Justice. It's like they are so slow. And the problem is that now we're just in actually, can we get a tier break between the Gladiators and the rest? Because I think Gladiators have improved recently to the point where you give them credit, but oh my god, we're now in just wanky territory. Just awful, just dreadful territory.
I feel good about the rest of NA though. I think it's fine, right?
Dallas above Toronto, maybe. Depends on what criteria. If you want to look rest of the season, I think that only got Doha. No, Doha can play Sombra, Doomfist.
Yeah, Doha's got a very good Sombra, actually. If we end up playing a lot of Sombra stuff, Doha's going to be...
Why are Toronto this high?
Put Dallas.
They're not that high. They're like, what, fucking 7th worst? Or
No. Put Houston below Toronto. Yeah.
No. Sorry.
I don't think that Outlaws are going to be good. If Orisa drops out of the meta, I think Outlaws have just lost everything they were good at. They suck at Rush. They suck at Dive. Unless they bring Muma back to play Dive, in which case they've got all of their old problems again.
Hydration Winston looked better.
Hydration Ball's not bad.
I'm not saying hydration's the problem. They have no coordination at all. None. They're running around like headless chicken.
All right, let's seal it and deal it.
Okay, well, Vancouver or Washington?
We're picking over the scraps.
Yeah, I don't even want to waste my energy arguing
The dregs. The dregs of the owl.
All right, put Vancouver or Washington, Kurt. No one cares, but I care. So put
Kurt,
Vancouver over Washington.
Go for it.
Why not?
Okay, whatever. I can't even care to argue
The
it.
12 Vancouver Titans fans out there will be pleased. Let's go to APAC, I guess.
I'm just trying to upset the Stitch fanboys.
Does the Spark pass just put Spark up where Chengdu is? Not put Chengdu above London.
Where do we put Chengdu?
Chengdu need to be in their own zone.
Put Chengdu in 4th. No, Chengdu's in 4th.
We don't know where Chengdu are going to be.
Hangzhou third. Hangzhou third.
I would still put Hangzhou 4th.
We had a
Hangzhou
30-minute
fourth, I think.
discussion
Yeah,
over
I would
Chengdu
leave it there.
winning the Overwatch League.
I would leave it right
think-
here.
But Chengdu either do insanely well or they suck. Because they can't play Winston comps. They aren't that good at Ryan comps. So they're either going to suck or they're going to dominate the rest of the season, depending on if it's a ball meta. Are you willing to bank on it being a ball meta and moving them up the power rankings?
Yes.
No.
I want to put Chengdu in some weird area of ether where they
put them between Washington and Boston.
yeah.
Chengdu
Let's put them in between Washington and Boston.
Put Chengdu right above the Dallas Fuel, below the Gladiators.
You can actually put Chengdu in between both regions because they'll just win everything. It doesn't matter what region.
There it is.
That
Seoul
is
above
it.
London. Seoul above London, and there it is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so I think Seoul have been playing.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
That's
there it
it.
is. That's the rankings. That's where it is.
Yeah.
London could also be pretty good if it's a ball meta, though.
This is the official power rankings.
Mate,
This is garbage. But it's our
also,
garbage,
people
so
are going to
I love
get
it.
confused. Well, actually, we're going to
Yeah,
confuse people
they're gonna
anyway
be
because
like,
Chengdu's there.
Garbage, yeah.
Shanghai is 16th. When it was like 14.
Like,
or whatever.
everybody loves their own junk. It's like, but it's our junk.
This
Yeah,
is
this
dumb.
is-
This
I'm
is so
happy
dumb.
with this. Are you guys happy with it?
This
Honestly,
is
we've
dumb.
never created a more on-brand power rankings, I think, though. Like, only us and the people listening to this audio would understand what happened looking at this image. Everyone else is just going to be so lost.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. Lock it in.
Clickbait.
Lock it in. All right, this is it. I like how Seoul and London are just cut off. You can't even
No, you
see
can't
it.
see it. No, we can see it. You can't.
Oh, I can't see them? They're not.
Yeah.
They're actually there? Oh, well. Oh, yeah, so they are. Wow, cool. All right, this next segment might be a little bit shaky because, well, I didn't really give Kurt my player of the week this week. I
really?
listened, Kurt, roll the tape. I'm just going to go with it. Just roll it.
Bren's player of the week. Presented by T-Mobile.
So, yeah,
Friends player of the week.
my player of the week for this week
Presented by
is
T-Mobile.
Kurt's just laughing because he knows, aha, you didn't submit one, you idiot. This week I've decided to give it to the community of Brenlets, actually.
No, I'm not accepting it. I'm not accepting it. Bren,
Get
you
it
gave yourself
Get it
player of the
out.
week 2 weeks ago.
Not
Then
a
Jaws
chance.
came on and he gave it to like who did Jaws give it to? He gave it to, like, himself.
Links are on Gibraltar.
Beam.
Yeah, he gave it to a meme. He gave it to
What?
an abstract concept. So I'm not handling this. You're not giving it to the Bren. Let's pick.
I'm giving it
pick
to-
a player.
Why was I not the player of the week? I did all 3 games on Sunday. I did from 7 a.m.
I
till-
hosted for the first time in my life.
Yeah,
I
but
had
you-
responsibility.
But you were on camera for like 8 minutes the whole day. I casted 2 games and
I had
did
to
one.
wake up at 7:30 a.m.
So did I. I started at the same time. Lip.
I have
Another
sown
candidate?
discourse within the community immediately with my return.
Lip.
I hold this much power over people with a simple award.
You know what? Honestly, though, I would say Rascal for
Rascal
no
for the
practice.
tweet. Dude, Rascal
no
for the
practice
tweet.
comes in with
100%
Genji in the
correct.
finals
I-
and just wins the cup for Shock with no
So-
practice.
I have this ties into the whole thing, but basically, I have uninstalled Twitter and Reddit off of my phone. I've blocked it on my PC as well. Oh,
Just put this tweet in. Yeah, that there it is.
Easy
Rascal's the player of the week.
dude, that's
Easy
pretty
win.
cool. I still don't want to give it to Rascal. I'm
Okay.
the
cool,
reasoning
cool.
is because I've taken this break. One of the things that was giving me anxiety was worrying about my stream stagnating or just like focus on the numbers, right? And worrying that you're going to be losing progress. This idea of progress, which during COVID was my personal stream, but my personal stream community through Discord and stuff basically explained the situation as I'm taking a week off because I'm literally this close from becoming a surf instructor. And they were all very...
Surf instructor.
You know how to surf.
You've only surfed once.
I would have learned, and then my job would have been teaching others. But the point is, they were very understanding, and I feel quite blessed to have a community, and also friends as well who are quite understanding outside of Matt, who just get it, you know. So yeah, I'm very
Call him
appreciative
out.
of my community, and thank you guys
I gave Bren a
for.
week off the show. He was great
What do you
when
mean?
he was off. I understand.
Yeah, I know. That was more of a little jab because you're always like, oh, well, I work 50 hours a day. Like, I've never taken a day off in my life. That's my Matt impression. You sound like a
I am finding this very entertaining,
little
personally.
Texas Walker
Yeah,
Ranger, aren't you?
I like a little mushroom haircut you gave yourself there.
It's pretty nice, though, isn't it? Like, I
No.
gave myself a good
You
trim.
are like a British Goomba.
Okay, Cool.
Sure.
And
The Brenlets, they deserve a shout out. What about Jaws? He filled in for you for 2 weeks.
no, he cocked up my segment. I don't want to give it to him.
He did cock it up. He did give the Bren's Player of the Week to a meme.
Yeah, I didn't actually know that until now, but yeah. But no, I felt, listen, they deserve it, They got my back. When I return, when the king returns to his throne, as Gondor calls for aid, surely I will be there.
Okay, well, who really is the player of the week?
That's it.
I want to, I've given up on this, but I do want to talk about the Rascal Genji thing. Why did they not scrim with Rascal Genji?
Oh my god!
Why would you not? Why would you not try that? Like, I assume it's because they thought Sombra Tracer was just better on every map, but they didn't try it. Like, did it fail in scrims?
Limited scrim time.
Probably
limited scrim
Maybe
time.
it was with team chemistry. Maybe it was mental damage.
I
but I mean, it worked in the finals.
I find it hard to believe like they just sub him in on the whim and they looked that good and organized and like it's like, oh look, yeah, we just pulled this out of nowhere.
That
why
is
not?
Rascal though. That is his personality.
They looked like a practice team in that comp.
But also shock.
That did not look like they were playing it on the fly.
But it doesn't play that differently from the Sombra Tracer. So if the rest of the team understands that comp, then maybe the Genji is...
individual Genji play didn't look like it was somebody who had just kind of.
But also, if Rascal can just come into a game and play like that,
why is he in all the time?
Why hasn't he been playing for months?
If I had to make a guess, it's because Genji meta came around with Summer Showdown. And it was like a week before the tournament, and Rascal feels a lot of pressure in bringing out the Genji, going up against the likes of Sparkle. Doesn't feel like he's played any Genji for the past 2 years, and need to obviously catch up to play the hero at a confident level. Doesn't feel confident about it enough to tell Krusty, hey, I want to go in and play Genji. So he doesn't play Genji. They end up opting for like Anson Striker and shit. Suddenly we get some Genji playtime under his belt. He practices in ranked. He practices maybe a little bit in scrims. And then he's like, I'm whipping out the dick, lads. And he just goes into Countdown Cup. I think I think that he needed more practice time on the hero in ranked just to bring himself up to speed and feel confident in his play.
You could have given Bren's Player of the Week to the Overwatch balance team for nerfing Barig, Orisa, and Sigma.
True.
Hey, they ain't getting that ever again after what they did to Genji. What they did to my boy, they ain't going near that award.
Look what they did to my boy.
My boy Genji.
They really gutted Genji hard. Like, you can't even kill a 200 HP target with 3 shurikens to the head anymore. Did you know that?
No. I did, but then I just keep thinking about how you gave the Bren's Player of the Week to the Brenlets, and I get angry again.
What is wrong with that? It's better than a fucking meme.
That's true.
It is, yes.
It's my award to hand out. I can give it out to whoever I want. I gave it to fucking Grinding Gear Games, a game company in New Zealand, and nobody complained. Why am I not allowed to give it to my community?
It's true.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Your award. It's your award. You do what you want.
Get off my bloody case, okay?
For Moth MVP, give the award to your friends.
Listen,
do
my
whatever
entire
you feel
life is nepotism. You know, the
Order
reason I'm in the Overwatch League is nepotism. Okay.
Order a burrito with nothing in it. I mean, you're just.
I got to where I am. Nepotism. So I'm passing it on.
Well, then why have you read Reddit and Twitter comments? If it was truly nepotism, you'd just say they're a bunch of cucks and just stay away.
Well, that's part of muting it. So I was addicted to social media because I would wake up in the morning and I would instantly I'll go on my phone to check.
That's just
to turn off my alarm.
I think that's part of everyone's. You know,
yeah, and I would just click on I noticed I was just clicking on the empty space where Twitter was. I was just addicted to looking at the timeline.
Really? You were once you would remove Twitter from your phone, you were clicking on where the empty space was.
But at first, there's so that's
the
a
POV
photo
from your phone.
It's a photo I posted in our house Discord.
That's
I
what
can't
your
remember
Twitter
what the
app
context
looks
of
like
this
when
was.
you click on it furiously in the morning.
God, your nose has gotten big.
I mean, the camera's in the fucking thing, Matt.
Is that not a filter?
Are we done with the show?
But
Something like that.
Why am I here?
for the 2 days once I had uninstalled it, every time I pressed the home button, I would press the empty. Oh, I can't even show it. I would press the empty space where the app was. Yeah. As soon as I pressed the home button, instinct, I would do it. It was just muscle memory built in. So, yeah, as much as I already was under the standing that I shouldn't be listening to comments from people who I wouldn't take advice with and have not worked in this industry. And also, let's be honest, if somebody is writing essays online, do they have anything going on?
Most of the time, not.
Yeah,
I don't know anyone in my personal life who writes essays online.
Johnny writes essays online,
but like in like comments, writing comments about other people online. That's very hateful, and you gotta get that negativity out of your life. Just over the shoulder, get it out of your life.
You can do it you can get that negativity out of your life by becoming a Bren.
Do you guys know?
Bren, I'm still very much for the idea of trying to get the travel channel to sponsor Foreheads, and we just go travel to a bunch of countries, and we go to Ethiopia, we go to Singapore.
What is Bren gonna talk about? Kurt, just turn it off.
Indonesia.
Hold on, I just wanna.
Kurt, just turn it off.
No,
Tommy,
let Bren finish.
You know, Big Time Tommy.
Is my thought of the day.
Yeah, turn it off, Kurt.
Everything or anybody tries to take away your happiness. Because life is too short for bullshit. I don't know if that's old school, but it's definitely common fucking sense.
Goodbye. Farewell.
And I think that sums it up, really. Like, if stuff doesn't make you happy in life, you just walk away from it. And I found that social media just wasn't making me happy, but I'm still going to post stuff because it's like my job.
I'm getting out of here as well.
But is that the episode?
Bren, keep talking.
Keep talking, Bren. Yeah.
Keep talking.
Keep going.
I've never done this before. What do I do?